the dog. Touchdown, Cowboys.
In crystal clear HD stereo, today's pregame show is brought to you by Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Texaco. Texaco with Techron delivers unbeatable gas mileage. Texaco with Techron, driving performance. Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Buffalo Wild Wings. Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com. Now, here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
It's a big one, boys and girls. This is a big one. Cowboys-Eagles right here on your home of the Cowboys. 105.3 The Fan, live from the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium, where the Cowboys are looking to make it 15 straight home victories. The Eagles have had trouble coming out of AT&T Stadium with a victory over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. Let's make tonight no different. The gates are open, and Cowboys Nation is awaiting the doors to open here at AT&T Stadium. Absolutely gorgeous. A gorgeous day, a little bit chilly, but it's fantastic. Sun's out, and Cowboys fans got smiles on their faces.
You know, Eric, if they played this one with an open roof, or say it was an open-air stadium, you would say it's a really nice night. The wind, none. The sun shining. Everything about it is, you would think when you look at early December football. I'll tell you what, though, there are times you and I have been out here broadcasting, and the sweat has been pouring off us as we've been broadcasting. But
that's right.
Beautiful time of the year, and a lot on the line really for both football teams. One team really trying to kind of find its way back after last week's embarrassing loss against the San Francisco 49ers when the Philadelphia Eagles, and are they going to come out of AT&T Stadium with the Dallas Cowboys now leading the division? The Eagles hold some tiebreakers down the stretch you're going to have to deal with, but this is a huge game, as you say. This could be the loser of this game could very well be a team that now has to find a way to protect the 5th seed.
That's right. The division hopes are on the line, certainly for the Cowboys. You lose tonight, and your hopes for winning the NFC East pretty much go out the window. And then you're just gunning for that 5th seed, which they have mostly secured in what is not a very impressive depth-wise NFC. So they should be able to lock up that 5th seed, but it's all about beating these Eagles tonight, and they have a great opportunity to do it. They dropped this game a few weeks ago in Philadelphia, but they played really, really well. They just weren't buttoned up at the end of the game on a couple of things. But now this Eagles team comes limping in after getting shellacked at home to the Niners last week. And the Cowboys, 10 days rest. 10 days rest. We saw them, a high-flying, firepower offense versus the Seahawks just last week, Thursday Night Football. You get a nice little rest, come in here, ready to rock and roll, and that's why I think it's a no-brainer. The Cowboys have to come away with a victory tonight. You can't be going 10 days rest, extra time to prepare, versus an Eagles team limping in who just got smashed by the Niners. And over the course of the last couple of seasons, when teams play the Niners, they are not very good the next week because the Niners are just a physical, beat-you-down team. And I got some numbers to reflect just how exhausted I think this Eagles team is that we'll get to. But, Broaddus, I think it's there for the taking, and I'm absolutely expecting Cowboy victory tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, and you're absolutely right about the Eagles and the gauntlet that and this will likely be the final game of the gauntlet for them. Then it turns into Giants twice and then the Arizona Cardinals to finish out. But, this is, you look at where Philadelphia was, their nice win at Kansas City, nice win, tough win against Buffalo in that game, and then you mentioned the shellacking they took. The Eagles have to be very mindful. This is the second time that they're dealing with a team that's had to play or has had 10 days rest. San Francisco had 10 days rest on them as well, playing that Thanksgiving game against the Seattle Seahawks.
That's true.
And
that's
so
right.
now here are the Eagles, that tough stretch they're dealing with, the final game in the tough stretch. And as you mentioned, a little bit of a beat-up football team. There was that game against the Buffalo Bills was very, very difficult for them. Took a lot out of them. And then, for the first quarter of that game, they were kind of in that with the 49ers. Then things all of a sudden just kind of started to fall apart for them, though. Couldn't really get a stop on defense that they needed. And San Francisco did a great job of keeping their offense in check.
All right, Cowboys Nation, come out early to the Miller Lite House, the pregame gathering destination on the West Plaza of the stadium. We are here right now. Miller Lite is the only beer of the Cowboys, and we invite all Cowboys fans to join us for a great tailgate event. Sample some great seltzer brands as well, like Vizzy Hard Seltzer, the official hard seltzer of the Dallas Cowboys. What is offensively the Cowboys' path to victory tonight, Broaddus?
I think it's going to have to be, you always want to talk about balance, but I think it's actually going to be more about throwing the football. Can you hold up at right tackle in this game?
Yes.
And where the Eagles want to attack you is they'd like to attack you off the edges, but they've got powerful guys inside. It's going to have to be a nice game from, Biadasz just played pretty well through this stretch. Martin, we know about him. Smith, we know about him. But they can't lose the game at right tackle in this one. They just cannot allow Hassan Reddick or anybody else, Graham, anybody else, Sweat, that rushes off their left side to affect how Terrence Steele is going to play. If they go into this game early and all of a sudden he shows that he can handle things, well, then maybe you have another plan to attack that way. But if the minute he shows that there's some type of problems over there, you better be ready to have that package of creating space to that side, chip help to that side, or anything that can make Hassan Reddick or any one of those edge rushers off the left side have to deal with more than just one guy blocking them.
Yeah, I really couldn't agree more, man. I mean, Hassan Reddick was really special in the first matchup.
Sure was.
And he's really the only super special game wrecker kind of guy they have on that defense. I think you really got to say, hey, we cannot let Hassan Reddick beat us tonight. By any means, whatever that means, you got to help Terrence Steele. Hopefully you see Reddick move on Tyron Smith and let Tyron Smith eat his lunch a little bit, because we saw Reddick do that last week.
He actually did,
flipping over, but we know he's going to have a target on Terrence Steele, and he's going to try to eat him up. And I just think offensively, you cannot let Hassan Reddick ruin the night, because I think he's really the only individual guy that could just totally take a game over. So I love that. Now, what do you say? Last time this team met, you saw the Cowboys unveiling quite a bit of their empty formations offensively, and I think they used their empty formations in that game at the highest rate than they have in any other game this season, and they had CeeDee Lamb being his most targeted game out of the slot. Do you see a similar opportunity tonight?
Well, the thing with the last time that the Eagles and the Cowboys met, Bradley Roby didn't play in that game.
They're nickel.
But they've had a lot of problems at that nickel slot. Whoever they've put in there, whether it's Eli Ricks, Bradley Roby, Josh Jobe, it doesn't matter. They've struggled in that area. So I would expect that the Cowboys try and probe that area first, see what happens. Are they up to it? Every time that Eli Ricks is on the field, that number 39, I'm targeting him. Whoever's got him in coverage, I'm going to throw the football at him, because I think that there's some problems at his spot. They've also had some problems, too, with James Bradbury as well. He's really struggled. He's given up 7 touchdowns this year at that cornerback spot.
Yeah, they've had Slay kind of travel a little bit.
The last game that the Cowboys and the Eagles played, Slay basically told the defensive the staff, "I'm going to travel with Lamb," and so now if it turns into they take their best guy and run him with Lamb, then that means Ferguson and others, Cooks. Those are the guys that are going to have to find ways to make some plays in this game until they find a way to kind of get Lamb back in the mix by moving him around.
Okay, now looking at the Eagle offense, what are we seeing from Jalen Hurts and company? Last week, big-bodied Ole Miss, fast receiver DK Metcalf had his way with Deron Bland until Dan Quinn said, okay, let's switch things up with Stephon Gilmore on him. A.J. Brown cut from a similar DK Metcalf cloth. How do you slow him in this offense down?
Yeah, but the big thing about it is that the Philadelphia Eagles, they get a really important piece back this week, and that's Dallas Goedert. This team looks different without Dallas Goedert playing at tight end.
Yeah.
You've got the threat now of the screen game. You've got the third down receptions. He had a couple of really big plays in the game last time before he broke his arm and was out of the game. But I do worry about him. How do you match up with him? Is that a Bell situation? Is that Jordan Lewis? Dallas plays a ton of dime. When we talk about dime defense, 6 defensive backs on the field, and you're trying to cover things up. So how you cover, how you deal with Dallas Goedert, how you deal with Smith, Devonta Smith. I think that's a big one too. You're going to get a lot of slants, a lot of curls, a lot of in-breaking routes. Have to be on the screws, though, the Cowboys secondary. But to me, the film that I watched, and we saw it last week a little bit with and Nick Bosa came out and said, hey, you can see on film how to play against the Philadelphia Eagles. They did a great job of rushing for gap integrity. Don't get out of your lanes. If you're going to rush 5, you got to make sure that you get home, but don't let your defenders get pinned to one side of the field, because if you get pinned and Hurts sees space, he really doesn't want to run, but he will run out of necessity, and that's what I worry about in this game a little bit, of Dallas maybe getting trapped out of position and then him having some running lanes.
Because Dallas has been, I mean, they've blitzed quite a bit this year.
They are a very blitz-heavy team. They're not really a four-down rush team. One of the lower, when you look at metrics, and we all study these numbers, right around 25th in the league when it comes to rushing 4. But Buffalo did it. San Francisco did it. You know, you make Hurts have to hold the ball and back that thing up.
All right, just getting started here on the official pregame show of America's team on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. We're live in the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. The gates have opened. Cowboys Nation waiting to infiltrate AT&T Stadium once these doors open. But we continue the party here. Tyler Biadasz, Cowboys center. Let's hear from him next right here on The Fan.
'Tis the season for Dallas Cowboys holiday youth football and dance camps presented by Invisalign. Athletes ages 6 to 16 will
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
3 hours and 2 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. 3 hours and 2 minutes to kick off the NFL game of the week. Sunday night football. Cowboys-Eagles right here on your home of the Cowboys. 105.3 The Fan, the official pregame party live here in the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. Let's get you today's player profile. The three-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold standing by with Cowboys center Tyler Biadasz.
Tyler Biadasz, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Great. Tonight you got the big one. It's the rematch against the Philadelphia Eagles. Everybody's excited. How does it feel to have 14 consecutive home wins going into this game?
No, I mean, it's great. Obviously, what we've done at home and having our home crowd, and very excited about the opportunity. And but no, man, we're ready.
You guys almost beat them up there. It was like going back and forth, and you just basically ran out of time. Can you take anything from that loss, even though it was a loss, on what you're going to try to do tonight?
Yeah, I mean, you always take, things from whether it's wins or losses, but at the same time, obviously with situational football, being detailed on our whatever we're running, whether it's like different concept plays or time at the possession, whether it's end of game situations, stuff like that. But you always learn from everything, and we've learned a lot from that game. And like I said before, that we're ready to go.
Seems like O-line's got continuity right now. Started the season, you had new coaches, you had different guys who were coming off of injuries. It seemed like this is like the best stretch for you guys. Am I wrong?
No, we're definitely hitting our stride for sure. We're definitely playing. I think that's what great teams do is they play their best football in December. That's where championship football is won, and especially going into the playoffs. So, we're definitely hitting our stride, and it's just the growth mindset of keep growing and building chemistry week in, week out, and obviously never being complacent.
You're not the only Tyler on the O-line. There's a guy named Tyler right over there on the other side of the room. And he's been doing some really, really impressive things this year. And he's almost having like an all-pro season. Were you expecting that out of him in his second year?
No, I mean, definitely his work ethic and his athletic ability. We definitely, before he, worked at guard and stuff, we definitely knew he was definitely a freak of his athletic ability, like I said before. And when he stepped into guard, and you saw that right away from tackle, and you were like, dang, this guy can play multiple positions, very versatile and stuff. And, OTAs, he worked tackle and guard. And then in camp, he worked, more guard. And that's where he ended up. But, he's definitely having a great year. He's definitely a lot versatility-wise, with whatever his set is, whether it's in pass pro and even in the run game, moving guys off the spot. But he has a big advantage of his athletic ability of switching up his jump set, or whether he's, straining in pass pro, he plays really long. And that great stuff. So, I mean, he's definitely growing every week. Even throughout the season, he's still growing. Obviously, it's his first year at guard, but, he's done a really, really impressive stuff, and no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt you guys are on fire, and he is in particular. Dak's been doing this new thing this year. Everybody's talking about it. Here we go. What do you think about when you hear him say, here we go? What does that mean to you guys on the O-line in particular?
Yeah, gotta get set, get ready to go. But no, definitely, it's a big part of our cadence, and it's a great ad lib of how people are taking it.
Yeah, they turned it into a song, man.
Yeah, no, I heard it. No, it's great though. But no, definitely he's hitting his stride too. And as a whole group, I think not just O-line wise, but I think as a whole group, we're definitely building a lot chemistry. And like I said before, we're gelling at the right time, and we're hitting our stride. And just again, championship football is won in December and going into the playoffs. So
okay, give us some quick intel on the Philadelphia Eagles defense. They're physical guys, but tell us what you have to deal with on a play-to-play, snap-to-snap basis. What do you got to do?
Yeah, it's just owning line of scrimmage. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. Owning line of scrimmage and moving the defensive front. I think their strength is in their, front seven. But yeah, I mean, it's simple as that. Owning line of scrimmage, and keeping the ball in better situational areas. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you want to have a great, first and second down, be great on those downs, and, put us in a great spot on third down if that's the case. yeah, I mean, just eliminating like common sense stuff, right? I mean, you obviously want to have no negative runs, and obviously you always protect your QB. So, but no, just the basics, man. It comes down to the simplest stuff. These big games, but it's as that simple. So,
all right, Tyler, appreciate it. Good luck tonight, man.
Appreciate it. Thank
you. Here we go.
Thank you, Chris Arnold. Thank you, Tyler Biadasz. And today's player profile is brought to you by Papa John's. It's big, it's good, and it's only for Cowboys fans. The Cowboys special from Papa John's, a large one-topping pizza for only $9.99. Order today. Better ingredients, better pizza. It is Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. And if you're looking for a game day meal, a little Hail Mary style before the game, nothing better than some Papa John's pizza. It is the official pregame show, the Dallas Cowboys, brought to you by Reliant and NRG Company. We're live here in the Miller Lite West Plaza. Broaddus, what do you think about Biadasz in this offensive line right now?
Going to have to play well inside. We talk about what's happening at right tackle, but when you're those young defensive tackles that from Georgia, when you talk about Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and what they've been able to do, paired with the veteran of Fletcher Cox, that is a tough group. Not a lot of pass rush moves, but a lot of power up there. Those guys are going to have to sit down. They're going to have to be able to control the middle. They got to create the depth of the pocket for Dak Prescott to be able to step up and throw, especially with the way their edge rushers scream up the field.
Yes. Is this? I know early in the season the Eagles were the poster boys for great run defense. Is that still the case, despite the fact that their defense overall has been pretty lackluster?
Yeah, they've struggled a little bit with the runs, and what is interesting, San Francisco and then also Buffalo, San Francisco made it a point to run at the Philadelphia's right side. So they went more perimeter runs instead of trying to go things inside. But the Eagles have been struggling at linebacker spot. But when they get Zach Cunningham back today, that will be a little bit of a little bit more help for them to help them in this running game. But some people have been able to attack them on the edges and on the perimeter.
And Shaq Leonard, do we expect him to play much at all? We'll ask Merill Reese when we chat with him.
I don't know if Merill will tell you very much about that or not. But you know what? I think that they've struggled at linebacker. It has been something that with Nicholas Morrow has not exactly been that great of a player for them, number 41. He's been a little bit of a liability for them. So anything to do to get Morrow involved in coverage or take the ball at him, I think you got a good chance to have a successful play.
All right, we're under 3 hours to kick off live at AT&T Stadium. Let's hang out with NBC's Jack Collinsworth. He'll be on the call tonight with Mike Tirico, his dad Chris Collinsworth, of course, Melissa Stark on the sidelines. Sunday Night Football on NBC. Let's hang out with Jack Collinsworth next right here on The Fan.
Football Club Barcelona arrives to Cotton Bowl Stadium this December 21st.
heat and the cool. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Under 3 hours to kickoff here at AT&T Stadium. Welcome into the official pregame party of America's team. Cowboys Nation showing out in a big way. The gates are open. The party is underway. The Miller Lite is flowing like wine. And we are waiting for the doors to open here at AT&T Stadium. Cowboys Nation ready to infiltrate. I do love, one of my favorite game day rituals is going to the account of like a John Machota.
John Machota will show you, yeah.
And he's ready and waiting with his cell phone video for just Cowboys Nation to storm in to get the best standing room view as possible.
Well, if you a member of the All Access team over here for Dallas Cowboys, you got in early. They were lined up over here, so you pay a fee, you become a club member.
There you go.
Boom. That's how you get to your seats a little earlier.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
All right, we will get to Jack Collinsworth of NBC on the call tonight with Mike Tirico. His dad, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark. We'll get to him here in just a few moments. We have Bobby Belt awaiting as we will go inside the Star here shortly. But I did want to give you a couple of updates here. It's halftime in San Francisco with the Niners up 14-10 right now. Drew Lock starting in
hanging
place
in there.
of Geno Smith. Yeah, the Seahawks, man, divisional game. Seahawks hanging in there, and they looked super respectable last week here when they took on the Cowboys. Cowboys escape, but it was a tight one. So the Seahawks getting it done right now, down 4 at the half to the Niners. And then how about the Bills going into Kansas City right now, and they are up 2 minutes remaining in half number 1, and the Bills are up 14-0.
Yeah.
These Chiefs,
Kansas City's got some issues.
Man.
Yeah, Kansas City's got some issues, and it all really is kind of they have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, no question about that. But you start to talk about their skill players, with the exception of their tight end. They're near one of the bottom when it comes to going out and making plays for their quarterback. They've put too much on the quarterback to try and get this done right now.
You know, Broaddus, one of the reasons why I'm super confident in the Cowboys' victory tonight and also feel like it's really must win is I think the Eagles are extremely vulnerable when it just comes to fatigue, attrition. You won't see it on the injury report necessarily. I mean, both teams come into this one pretty dang healthy. You know, with everything considered in December, and both these teams got most of their horses ready to rock and roll. The Eagles get Dallas Goedert back tonight, which is going to be huge for them.
Big. Yeah.
But I do feel like this Eagles team, and especially their defense, is beat up and exhausted. Since week 8, the Eagles defense has played 362 snaps, which is easily the most in the NFL for the 5 games that they've played. The average NFL defense during that span has played under 290. And so some teams are down as low as 250 snaps for their defense. The Eagles, again, 362 snaps. And a lot of that is because, one, they're the worst third down defense in the league. And so they can't get themselves off the field.
Yeah.
And one of those games over the last couple of weeks was that Buffalo game. They go into overtime, and their defense is playing extra snaps. I think they played like almost 100 in that game. Right. So I think you're talking about sort of a dead leg Eagles team off a loss to the Niners, and the Niners just beat everybody up. And you can see that same team who loses to the Niners sort of sleepwalk that next week. And then on top of all of that, the Cowboys come into this thing with 10 days rest, fresh legs, and they're rocking and rolling, especially at home where they're going 14 consecutive victories, looking to make it 15.
Yeah, but they've got to find a way to play defense today too. You feel like that the quarterback, the offense, earlier in the program we talked about all the positive things that we've seen from this offense since that bye week, but now it's about the defense. Can you find a way to affect Jalen Hurts in this game? Can you find a way to play run defense when you have to? I believe they're going to try and run the ball with Swift. They have the last couple of weeks had some success with him, whereas before, when the first time they met, it really wasn't a team that ran the ball all that well. I could see them trying to run the ball on Dallas, trying to establish a little bit, maybe try and wear this Dallas defense out, and then you'll see some of those shots go down the field. Cowboys secondary has to be on it today. Cowboys safeties have to be on it today. You cannot let your eyes affect the way you play in this game. You can't take false steps, false reads. You know, if your responsibility is to bracket on the outside, don't get sucked into anything coming underneath. You do your responsibility, stay with your guys, and make sure that they're taken care of. Because the longer that Jalen Hurts holds the ball, he really doesn't want to run all that much now. He'll run if he has to, But then again, he'll throw the ball away if he doesn't see like he has an opportunity, and that's what San Francisco was able to do to him last week.
Man, you bring up the safeties for the Cowboys. And I think that might be one of the more disappointing things of the team. We'll get to that here in a moment, because right now it's time to go inside of AT&T Stadium. Down on that beautiful turf is Jack Collinsworth. He hosts Football Night in America. On site, actually going to be outside of AT&T Stadium here, right in the Miller Lite West Plaza at about 6 o'clock. So if you're coming to the game tonight, you can stop by, say hello to him. But let's go ahead and welcome in Jack Collinsworth. Jack, how you doing, man? Happy game day.
Doing great, standing at one of the coolest stadiums for any sport anywhere in the world, talking to you guys. Life's good.
Okay, you saying that's pretty amazing, because you're a dude who has been all around the freaking world, from Olympics to, I mean, I feel like you've covered it all at 28 years old. Pretty dang amazing, the resume. But is this is right at or near the top of the list for you, AT&T Stadium?
It's right there. We were just talking about it a second ago. You walk this field, we come out at halftime of those 1 p.m. East Coast games and just take a couple of laps, Rodney Harrison and I, and it's always one of our favorites, man. Just looking up at the Jumbotron and all the seats, everything it holds. I mean, you just get a special feeling. It's with SoFi. It's with the new stadium in Vegas. It's very unique. It doesn't matter what sport you're doing anywhere in the world. It just gives you that feeling every time you're here.
Yeah, you're sitting there, you think it can't get any better than this, and then you go up into the press box and you enjoy that delicious food. Please, God, tell me, Jack, you have you get yourself a moment to get in that press box.
Oh, you already know. Come on,
yes,
that's
sir.
Part of the experience we're talking about now.
Yeah, it might be the thing I look forward to most, Jack. Maybe. I'm not going to guarantee that. Broaddus, what you got?
Hey, Jack, I was going to ask you this question because the Eagles are kind of coming in with, after what happened to them against San Francisco last week, they had some really nice wins, Kansas City along the way, Buffalo along the way. What are you expecting from the Eagles team, maybe how they'll play tonight? Could they come out? Do you think they're going to play fast off the jump, or is it going to take them a little time to get going in this one too?
I expect them to be angry, to be honest with you. I think anytime one of the premier teams, one of the top NFL teams gets beat like that, there's a natural anger that associates. And honestly, to me, and I'm going to pick the Cowboys, so I'll go ahead and let that out right now, but
sure.
Nice. I do think that the majority of the pressure is going to be on Dallas, right? I think this, in front of the home fans, the role they're on, Dak really in the middle of this MVP race right now. He plays great tonight. I think he's going to be the front runner by far for that MVP thing, at least the conversations going into tomorrow. So I think the pressure kind of is on Dallas and on the stars on this Dallas team. But my guess is the Philly team coming in is going to be looking for a fist fight.
It's Jack Collinsworth with us here on The Fan. He hosts Football Night in America, calling Big Ten basketball on Peacock, and the voice in Notre Dame football. Jack, you do it all, man. What has been? I mean, you've done Olympics, you've done the Indy 500s. I think you've done more than you haven't done. What's the thing when you look at your career that stands out to you the most right now?
Well, we had a great Tuesday night game this week for college hoops, but there's nothing you can do to beat getting out here, man, and hanging out with Tony Dungy and watching these 1 o'clock games and these 4 o'clock games, and just the wisdom that you hear from him watching football through a Hall of Fame coach's eyes, and then Rodney Harrison should be a Hall of Fame safety's eyes. It's just such a unique experience. And then you go out there and you stand in the middle of the parking lot, and this is one of those games when the schedule was released. All we were thinking about was this game. You kind of circled this one right off the bat. Philly coming off the potential Super Bowl. Dallas, who really feels like this team can go win a Super Bowl, and they're going to meet. And, of course, the season has played out where they're both in great position right now to go make a run. And now they have to meet on Sunday Night Football with everybody watching. You feel that buzz from the fans when you're out in the parking lot and then coming in for the end of the show. It's unique, man. It's really cool. So I think it's pretty tough to beat being a part of Sunday Night Football.
Jack, when you were doing your show prep, how many conversations did you have with Jason Garrett about this team? Did you pick his brain about maybe some angles or maybe some nuggets and stuff that you're going to give us in the pregame show today?
Well, we didn't have a Notre Dame football game this week, so I didn't get to spend quite as much time with Jason, but I did watch his full conversation with Dak Prescott and got to hear a little of that back and forth. But yeah, I think the feeling is, from just listening into the production meeting and everything in between, that their stars have to play big. And I know that Parsons is coming in off a bit of an illness, but this one of those games, if they're going to win, I think he's just got to be a monster. I think he's got to go wreck this thing. And then the other side of it is they got to be able to block Philly. And that's something that has been a challenge for even some of the best offensive lines. But probably if you talk to Mike McCarthy, biggest upside coming in is that their offensive line is healthy. And you know, without Smith at left tackle, which you get to this point in the year, you never quite know. Is he going to be out there? Is he going to be healthy? Zach Martin's still healthy. So at least they have their best ready up front for what's going to be a real test going up against that Philly D-line. Always is.
Do you feel like Dallas needs to take advantage of what's going on in this Philadelphia secondary? It seems like, though, they can't get off the field on third down. You know, you got CeeDee Lamb, and, you know, Darius Slay can move around and do a lot of things coverage-wise. But do you feel like that's where you're going to have to go in this football game if you're the Cowboys, try and take advantage of this Eagles secondary?
I do, and I think if you're Philly, you probably want to take Slay and move him around with CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee's coming off that huge game, really a career game when you look at receiving yards the last time that they played against Philly. So I think the formula for Dallas for me tonight is through the air. I think it's going to be hard for them to match up with CeeDee Lamb. I would try my best to move Slay around with them, but some of the motions and last-second shifts they do with CeeDee makes that tough to really get a good jam on him on the line. So I think he's going to have an opportunity to have another one of those breakout games, and what a moment that would be for Dak, for these fans, if they're able to do it through the air and with Dak Prescott shining.
What about on the other side, though? You know, Dallas last week showed that, you know, they had some struggles with the big receivers, you know, in Seattle. What do you expect, though, from the Dallas perspective of having to deal with Philadelphia's talented wide receivers?
Yeah, it's another interesting one. I think you got to start with A.J. Brown. You know, they really run it through both those guys, both Smith and Brown, and the majority of their offense, majority of their pass game is that, and then it becomes the RPOs and everything else that they do, running the ball and running Hurts on the ground. But as you look at their pass attack, it really is those two guys, while Dallas has been mostly through CeeDee Lamb. So you kind of have the big three coming into this game. I think you really have to focus on shutting down Brown first, knowing he's their most targeted guy. He's really their go-to guy. And then to some degree, you have to give less help to Smith, even though you know he can take over a game at any moment. But I really feel like right now, as good as both of them are, you got to start with stopping Brown.
Jack Collinsworth with us here on The Fan. Now, you do the Notre Dame football games with the college football situation, the college football playoff. That we got the Final Four. Texas is involved. That's huge for this part of the country right now.
Yeah.
How fired up are you for these playoff games? I think they got some pretty dang good matchups.
They got some great matchups. I do not envy the role and responsibility of having to choose who we're going to leave out. I'm really looking forward to the 12-team playoff and sort of this March Madness feel that I think it's going to create. And, you know, you may be delaying the inevitable to some degree. You may end up with the Final Four teams looking similarly by the end of it, but at least you get to decide that on the field, which to me is the way that it should be. But I think these matchups are going to be awesome. And Alabama kind of coming from nowhere, and people were going, Milroe doesn't have it, and this is not going to be the year for them. And Tommy Reese, who was the Notre Dame offensive coordinator, longtime Notre Dame quarterback, to watch him figure it out on the fly this year, and now them to be in this really interesting position where can they make a run and go win a national championship? If they do, I think it'll be one of Saban's favorite memories of his coaching career, the turnaround they've been able to put together throughout the course of the season.
What do you think is the championship matchup here?
Oof. If Michigan doesn't get one this year, I think it's going to be pretty loud. It's going to be pretty loud up there in that state. So I think my pick to win it all this year is still Michigan.
All right, very good. Jack Collinsworth, ladies and gentlemen. Jack, thank you so much for the time, man. It's been a real treat.
Really appreciate you guys, man. It's going to be a fun one tonight. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. There he goes. Jack Collinsworth hosts Football Night in America, Big Ten basketball on Peacock, Notre Dame. He does it all. And, of course, his dad, Chris Collinsworth, will be on the call
just
tonight.
like his
He
old
does.
man.
He does. There was a part of me that was like, Jack, is this Am I talking to Jack or is this Chris?
Yeah.
What's the deal? All right, let's go inside the Star. Tonight's game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys at AT&T Stadium is brought to you by Bank of America, the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys, and the official insider of the Dallas Cowboys is Bobby Belt, and he's with us now here in the Miller Lite West Plaza. Bobby, happy game day, sir. Looking good, feeling good, ready to part. Big game, Bob. It's a big game tonight. Big game, Bobby's showing up.
Absolutely, it is a big game. Dak said it this week. You know, they were asking about all the accomplishments they've had recently and everything else, and Dak was like, yeah, it doesn't really mean anything. This is like when football starts for us. Like, this is the real football, is going to be this stretch starting here with Philadelphia, and then it's into Buffalo, into Miami, and then Detroit here at home. I mean, this is the stretch that everybody's wanted to see, and this is going to be, outside of probably San Francisco, this is the biggest game of the year for them.
Bobby, give me something that we're not talking about offensively that Dallas might have some success doing tonight.
You know, we talk a lot about how the corners are struggling for Philadelphia and things like that, but I know you and I had talked this week about the idea of, like, find a way to isolate Morrow. Find a way to isolate Reed Blankenship.
Yeah, exactly.
Nicholas Morrow, the linebacker, Reed Blankenship, the safety. Those guys have really struggled. For all the issues that Slay and Bradbury and guys like that have had this year, and they've had their struggles. They've not been as good this year. Those two right there, Morrow and Blankenship, they've had a lot of problems. So as much as we may want to see CeeDee Lamb take advantage of some things, Brandon Cooks, guys like that, it may be a big night for Ferguson. If you can get Ferguson, lined up on Morrow or Blankenship and do some stuff down the seam, and we've seen Dak's been really willing to throw down the seam lately, then that might be a big connection for them.
Do you feel like this Eagles team, as it stands right now, is even more vulnerable than the Eagles team you saw a few weeks back in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think that. I mean, I think that at that time you couldn't say that Dallas was better than Philadelphia. I think Dallas played better that day, but ultimately Philadelphia showed you why they are the team that they are in terms of they won on the details. The little small things that mattered in a close ball game, they knocked you out on the scorecard. They absolutely beat you there, and that's where Dallas had their missteps. I don't know that you're going to get the same opportunities for those little details to be as important in a narrow ball game, because I don't know that it's going to be a narrow ball game. You're going to have to keep up with them the same way Seattle did last week. Seattle's going to have to, or Philadelphia's going to have to keep up the same way the Seahawks did, because Dallas has shown they're averaging 41 points a game here at home. They are on fire throwing the football. Philadelphia struggled to stop it. The biggest question is, can Philadelphia match that? If Philadelphia can't match that, then this will be a game that Dallas controls.
John Hussey's the official. There's a lot of talk that we've seen about the Eagles being 7-0 with him as the official when games he's officiated. But John Hussey this year, his crew has called more penalties against the visiting team than the home team. Is this one of those games that you would just stay out of it? Just don't even let them play, let it happen. There's going to be the false starts, there's going to be the holdings, but let both teams just go at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would like to think they do. But, I mean, if they don't choose to do that, if John Hussey's crew decides they're going to be really active in this game and they're going to be throwing a lot of, pass interference calls or whatever else.
Had 25 calls in a San Francisco Cleveland game here earlier in the year.
Yeah, and then the Cowboys need to be prepared to adjust to that. You remember a couple years ago on Thanksgiving, Derek Carr with the Raiders realized if I throw it up, they're going to call it.
Right.
And so I'm going to do that all game. The Cowboys, similarly, if they find that John Hussey is not letting this be a game where it's just, all right, let him play, and they're throwing things that are a little ticky-tack, then they need to be able to adapt, adjust, and start thinking of that within their own game plan.
Bobby Belt with us here on The Fan. What have you seen from Jalen Hurts?
I've seen a guy who does not look totally healthy when you watch him. I think that
healthier than last time they played, though, right?
I don't know.
I think so.
I think he looks lumbering. I think he looks lumbering when he runs.
I just don't think he wants to run as much. And that might all change tonight. All this narrative that we're talking about, he doesn't want to run, he doesn't want to do this. Watch tonight, all of a sudden, they give him green grass to run, and he takes off.
I mean, look, when Nick Bosa talks about giving them the blueprint, which I know a lot of guys have pushed back against, Jane Slater, our buddy at NFL Network, she had referenced that she talked to Fletcher Cox this week and brought that up to him about, Nick Bosa saying the blueprint. And he's like, I'm not going to get into any public back and forth, but I'll tell you this, there's no blueprint. We played bad. Like, we were just not good out there. We didn't make tackles. We didn't do this. We didn't do that.
That's what Kelsey said on his podcast.
And that's what you have to say. You're not going to say, well, yeah, they figured out the book on us. Just like the Cowboys didn't say the same thing when a couple of years ago teams went, all right, we're going to put the too high shell in place and beat it. Nobody would say that was the blueprint here in Dallas. But the reality was they were trying to adjust to it. But Bosa talking about that idea of, just rush 4, drop 7, which was a big thing teams did to Dak a couple of years ago. They have to adjust to that.
2 games I've seen it. Buffalo and San Francisco have done it.
And they have to adjust to that. That's the thing. It's not that Philadelphia is not identifying what teams are doing to them and, how do we figure out some of these complex things they're doing? I think Philly sees it. They just now have to figure out, how do we beat it? How do we respond to that? How do we execute against that? And that's what they're running into right now. And I think you've seen, I know you and I talked about this a little bit, I've seen Jalen Hurts double clutch more on film in the last 3 or 4 weeks than I've seen him do probably his entire career. He does not look like he trusts what he's seen out there at every
he missed Dallas Goedert, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think not having Dallas Goedert in those games, I think that affected the way the Eagles played offense.
Sure.
I mean, there's things that go through him, that screen game, the quick game, the third down stuff. I mean, he's a tough cover.
Teams definitely, though, right now, they kind of want to seal things off. All right, let's have them just kind of roll to one side, seal things. And Buffalo did that on 3 straight plays to open the game a couple weeks ago. And what was it? Jalen Hurts threw the ball out of bounds 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And you're seeing a lot of ball out of bounds. He gets kind of cut off to the sideline, and his options are, okay, miracle throw here or toss it out of bounds. That's how, San Francisco and Buffalo have really pressured them the last couple weeks.
Bobby Belt with us here on The Fan. Is there concern for this defense, this Cowboys defense, after what Seattle was able to do last week and lighten them up? Or is there confidence that, bad game, whatever, bad night, Dan Quinn knows how to get this thing figured out?
I think there's been some consistent concerns all year about the run fits and some of their reads at times there. In the passing game, the interesting thing, obviously, the last couple games has been how teams have sought out Deron Bland. And they weren't doing that earlier in the year. They were more looking for the matchups of Gilmore or Lewis. This Philadelphia team a few weeks back, that's who they look for. They look for Jordan Lewis.
Yeah.
And that's who they chose to attack, and they had some success with it. These last couple weeks, the way teams have kind of gone at Deron Bland, that's been interesting to me. I'll be interested to see if Philadelphia tries to pick on that a little bit, or they say, no, we're going to go back to the well of we feel pretty confident about what we got against Jordan Lewis. And if you watch some of the minimal success they had in the passing game last week, Philadelphia, it was running in breaking stuff, slants against the slot. That's the stuff that they were having success with in the middle of the field. They converted several third downs doing that last week. And this is a team that'll convert third downs at a really high rate. So I do think that there is some concern of Bland's been getting beat a little bit. To be fair, Geno Smith was throwing some darts last week on Bland. Bland was in position a couple different moments. But, yeah, I think that's something that you're going to have to worry about. If your pass rush isn't getting home, are they taking advantage of Lewis? Is Bland having an off night? Are they getting at Gilmore's, regressed speed? Those are things that the Cowboys will have to guard against.
Bobby, I worry about the Cowboys' safeties in this game.
Yeah, it's something that's been a fair worry, I think, most of this season. Even take the first touchdown to Metcalf.
Yeah.
You could say that was more on Donovan Wilson than it was Deron Bland.
What was he looking at?
Yeah, what was he looking at? Why was he playing so shallow? Why was he, having to scramble back to where he was? The safeties are definitely something that, you need to have an eye on. And it's been an instance of when they've had some struggles defending the pass at times this year, which hasn't been frequent, but when they've had it, a lot of times it has come back to those safeties. And like we talk about there, getting Goddard back or whatever else, that's a bigger issue for, safety concerns than would have been.
Is Micah going to have a MJ flu game tonight?
I mean, he did earlier this year, right? Or was that last year where I feel like we've had a couple different ones where it's like Micah wasn't feeling so great, and then he goes out there and he gets like 2 sacks, and so
that's his thing, man.
Yeah, exactly. He levels up in those instances.
You go low expectations and then you exceed them, right? Isn't that what you do? Undersell, over deliver kind of deal. Guys, I'm sick tonight. Give me a break, and then he goes out there and
goes out there and wrecks shop, and so that's what you'd hope for.
Where do you rush him today, Bob?
So
I'm not letting him rush against those tackles.
No, I was about to say I don't think probably a lot of what they've done in the past. I mean, I believe the sack he got on Hurts in the first game came up rushing up the middle. And look,
take advantage of Kelsey if you can.
He's had a ton of success rushing up the middle. He's so difficult with his speed and his power and everything else that he uses. He's so difficult to handle on the inside. Obviously, we've seen at times that he can, because of that burst of speed that he plays with and that hair on fire, there are times a little bit where he can get too far upfield, and I would imagine somebody like Lane Johnson would try and take advantage of that and push him upfield and get him out of the play. Hurts is really adept in the pocket. He'd probably step up, slide some stuff. Yeah, just get pressure right up the middle.
As somebody who's had an appendix surgery, how impressed are you that Mike McCarthy is going to get it done on his feet for 4 quarters tonight on that sideline?
That's a football guy move if I've ever heard one. Standing up there 3 days after I don't think I was allowed to return to work for like 2 weeks.
No, you just chose to do that.
I mean, both and they're both true, Brian. I chose and it was the case. But no, honestly,
it's not like you're doing blue collar work either. You're sitting around and crunching numbers.
I was standing at a board, but that's the thing is that I think the doctors told me like for the first week they're like don't be on your feet for prolonged periods of time, and he's going to be out there for 3 hours today, so toughen it out.
Pittsburgh guy.
That's a Pittsburgh guy right there. What was it? Dan Quinn said, you think that tough Irishman is going to miss this game? No chance. That's what Dan Quinn told reporters.
He came down to Texas, and now he's built Ford tough. That's what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
Bobby,
plug.
I love you. You're a beast. Enjoy the game.
I love you all.
All right, there he goes, Cowboys insider Bobby Belt here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan, live on Twitch and YouTube here in the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. The sun is starting to go down a little bit, getting a touch chillier, but Cowboys Nation rocking and rolling, waiting for these doors to open here at AT&T Stadium, but this is the place to be if you're coming out to the game tonight. Cowboys-Eagles, Sunday Night Football. It does not get any better than this. Let's have a conversation with Babe Laufenberg. He joins us next right here on The Fan.
Spurs assistant coach.
Minutes to kick off Sunday night football here in Arlington, Texas, AT&T Stadium. Cowboys and Eagles live in the Miller Lite West Plaza. Let's go inside the booth with our guy, Babe Laufenberg, and let's break this game down, ladies and gentlemen. Babe, how we doing on this Sunday night?
Doing great. Really excited about this game tonight. I really am.
I think it's safe to call it a big one, Babe.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Now, what are you seeing? What are you seeing mostly from this Eagles offense? I'm curious. It feels like they're sputtering a little bit. Old Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's not the same dominant Hurts from last year, and I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with him.
You know, he got his knee banged up in week 5, and nobody will ever tell you, but you can tell that he is clearly not as effective running the ball as he was. The first game against the Cowboys, they didn't run him at all, and he was coming off of that injury. At that point, he had played with it for a week, but you could just tell he wasn't even close to the same guy. It's interesting. Nick Bosa, after the 49ers beat him last week, said, we just put the blueprint out on how to beat Philadelphia. He said, I hope the Cowboys were watching. And I think they were. But what San Francisco did last week, they go 4-down linemen. You know, they're a 4-down team. And their 2 defensive tackles kind of mush rushed, which means they're just going slow. They're not letting him come up into the pocket that way. The whole goal was to keep him in the pocket or force him outside, but not to let him run up in those A and B gaps, you know, where the center and the 2 guards would be. And they did a good job of that. However, you know, there were times in that game, and I know you guys both watched it, where Hurts had 5 or 6 seconds to find a receiver, but it just seemed like he couldn't. And don't ask me why when you've got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown out there running around for you.
Babe, did you feel like, though, that, okay, the Cowboys, when you look at metrics and all that, not a big 4-man rush team. They like to bring pressure. They like to blitz. They like to do it on second down. Is this one of those things where Dan Quinn does what Dan Quinn does, or do you adapt, or you just say, okay, we'll mix a little 4-man rush with a little bit of the 5- and 6-man rush?
You know, I'm always of the philosophy that you kind of do what you do best and what you're comfortable with. So I don't see them changing a whole lot of what they did. And, hey, go back to that first game in Philadelphia. They held them under 300 yards, basically right at 300, 297. But, you know, you hold them to 300 yards, and usually you win.
Right.
But so I don't look at that game and say, wow, they got to do something different. Conversely, I do look at how Philadelphia played defensively, and they're going to do something different. I don't know what it is, but, you know, CeeDee Lamb had
Bradley
5
Roby
receptions.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that'll help. But CeeDee Lamb had 5 receptions of 20-plus yards. So they're going to have to figure out a way to handle that. And I don't know exactly how they'll do it, but for Philadelphia to come in and Sean Desai, their defensive coordinator, to say, well, we're just going to do exactly what we did in that first game, that would be a mistake. And I don't think that will happen.
Babe Laufenberg with us here on The Fan. Is it an insane question to ask and wonder sort of who needs this game more as they battle for the division?
Well, it's not an insane question for sure, but clearly Dallas does. Dallas loses tonight. They're a wild card team. They will not win the division.
Yep.
Dallas wins tonight, it gives them a shot. And the other part, and I was talking to Brad Sham, who is in the booth tonight, a little bit about it. The one thing a win does too, now maybe they don't catch Philadelphia. If Philadelphia wins out, Philadelphia wins. They win the tiebreaker there. But to me, it keeps the Cowboys on edge, right? You go into each week saying, hey, we need this game, as opposed to coming down the stretch saying, well, we can't really improve our playoff position. We're going to be the 5 seed, blah, blah, blah. So to me, it's a double-edged sword. One, it keeps you in that race for the NFC East title and home field advantage, which if you can get that number 1 seed, that's huge. But the other part of that is, again, it keeps you sharp to me down the stretch.
When you look at Dak Prescott, clearly, Babe, they found something offensively. There were things earlier in the year. We talk about it every week, but every week we talk about Dak Prescott and the level he's playing at right now. Is this something that you'll absolutely continue to see? Is Philadelphia got an answer for how he's playing, or how do you think that they will attack him today?
It's a good question. Again, they've got to do something different than what they did. And in that game, C.D. Lamb made a living out of the slot. And
Right.
they rolled the safety over to that side, but they really didn't double him up inside and outside. Have a guy outside of him, guy inside of him. I see that happening a little bit more. They can't let C.D. Lamb take over this game the way he took over that one. He had a career high 191 yards. He had 11 receptions. So I see them taking him away or doing their best to do just that.
Well, what about, okay, let me focus you on another area then. How are you going to help Terrence Steele in this game, or are you not going to help Terrence Steele in this game?
I think you go into it not helping, and then if you need it, you go there. But I don't think you want to tell Terrence, the mindset is, boy, we're going to give you a bunch of help in this one. He's a good player. I think we all agree he's a good player.
Sure.
We all agree he had a bad game against Philadelphia.
Right.
But I really see Terrence, I just think the type of person he is and the pride he takes in his work, I see him playing a good game today. Now, they're going to kick it off, and Hassan Reddick's going to line up over him, and I'll change my mind 3 plays in, but I really see him answering the bell today. I really do.
Babe Laufenberg with us here on The Fan. They get back Dallas Goedert tonight at the tight end position. How much does that help this Eagles offense?
Oh, I think it's huge. They've in the 3 games that Dallas Goedert has missed since the Cowboys game, the tight ends have 2 receptions.
Been awful.
2.
Yeah,
so
they've been awful.
You take away the threat of the tight end right there. He is good in the running game. A lot of tight ends now, they're more pass receivers. He is one of those guys, like a Kittle. He's good in the run game. He's good in the pass game. And I'll even go back to that first game with Philadelphia, right? They had a 4th and 3 on their first drive. They ran Dallas Goedert on a corner route on the right side. Corner route. Not just a turn 5 yards, hook, show the quarterback your numbers, we'll get you the ball. They ran a corner, ran it on Jordan Lewis. Hurts threw a great ball, but they're not throwing corner routes to their tight ends, not named Dallas Goedert. So that just gives them a huge weapon in this thing.
Babe, when you the Cowboys, defensively, and we've seen things in the secondary. Last time out against the Seahawks, we saw what really dynamic receivers could do to this secondary. Is there something different? Is there a technique thing? Is there a scheme thing? Or is it just that's the National Football League? You're playing against great receivers every week.
Yeah, I think it's the latter. And when you look at that Seattle game, Geno Smith made some throws in there, and Dan Quinn kind of alluded to it. As a defensive coordinator, you never want to throw your hands up and say, wow, what are we going to do on that play? But he had a fade up the left sideline. I can visualize it because I'm in our booth, and I'm seeing exactly where he threw it to DK Metcalf, but just dropped it in beautiful. I mean, you always say there's no defense for the perfect pass, and Geno Smith had a couple of them. That 73-yard kind of slant or skinny post that he hit to DK Metcalf in the first drive for the touchdown. Again, he had about a 6-inch window to throw that football, and he put it in it. He put it there. So give them a little bit of credit there. And yeah, to your point, you're not going to go through a season giving up 10 points every game. And Seattle got them last week. Now you just hope it doesn't happen twice in a row.
If Babe Laufenberg was a few days removed from appendix surgery, would he be listed as probable, questionable, doubtful, or out?
I'd be listed as he's still in the hospital.
Yeah.
I would milk it for everything I could. Speaking of which, Dan Campbell had an emergency appendectomy, and I love the way he talked about emergency.
Right? Wasn't it
training camp? He was on the team plane. He was on the charter going out to Oxnard.
Yeah.
And his ruptured. And when your appendix ruptures, now you're talking a whole another ballgame. But I texted him this week. I said, hey, Dan, they're making a big deal of McCarthy. His had not ruptured. Yours ruptured, and Parcells had you a day later in full pads.
Yeah.
But so he got a kick out of that, of course. But I do love the emergency appendectomy. Take away emergency. You don't plan appendectomy surgery. You don't call your doctor and set up a date. You don't say, hey, I need to meet my deductible. Can we do this by maybe December 20th?
It's not like taking your tonsils out or something like that, right?
No. You set up an appointment. It's like, hey, when that hits, boom, you're in. Yeah. But hey, I really am happy for Mike McCarthy. Just obviously as a person that he's back. Everything went well. He's going to coach tonight. He's going to have to struggle through some things. It's still surgery, right? So,
no doubt.
Well, let's hope he doesn't struggle
hats off to
through.
him.
Yeah, let's not struggle through the last minute of a game. Let's make sure that, when it comes time to use a timeout or run the ball to get a first down or make the other team have to use their time, let's not struggle with that.
Yeah.
If you're going to struggle with a little pain, I'm okay. But don't struggle with decisions. That's what we don't need.
I understand.
Tonight. Yeah,
I don't think the brain is affected by the appendix removal. I do not think. I'm not a doctor.
Let's not.
But it's amazing. I went back and looked at that game again, guys. I'm sitting there, and the ball is sitting there with 27 seconds left. At the 6-yard line. And if you had told me going into that game, going to Philadelphia, you're going to have 4 shots in the end zone from the 6-yard line, I'd have said, "Oh, I'll take it. I'll take that every day."
Yep.
And then, as it turned out, you had 1 shot in the end zone from the 27.
Yeah.
So, ball went backward.
Well, speaking of taking it, babe, if you were McCarthy and you win the coin toss tonight, you running out that offense first?
Well, they don't get to win because the opposing team, calls the coin. They get to decide what they want to do. But I would think it'd be great. I know he likes the defense going out there first on the road, and I think it'd be great if the offense comes out, crowd fired up, you go down, you go 75, touchdown, and get things started that way. So I'd love to see if Philadelphia, wins the toss, defers, and the Cowboys take the ball, again, go 75 yards, and you say, boy, here we go again.
So I don't want to hear the second half, though, when, babe, you come back after you do your guacamole read and you give me the Philadelphia has the ball to start the half, and they scored on the last drive that they had. We don't need one of those, babe. We don't need to lose the middle 8, okay?
Yeah.
We lost the middle 8 against Seattle, all right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yo quiero.
Yeah, there we go.
You ready for that read? I love it. Man. You got me all fired up for it.
I'm just trying to help, man.
I love those reads.
Again, they will not have a choice because Philly will determine that on the coin flip. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, babe, I am interested in your thoughts on this because we've had, I would say, the most common thing we've had just screamed at us here in the Miller Lite West Plaza is a bunch of here we goes, the same way Dak does with his cadence. I'm curious from a quarterback standpoint, what do you make of the here we go cadence?
I think it's funny, and it's taken on, obviously, a life of its own, the way Omaha did with Peyton Manning.
Yes.
There's a lot more that they do today than, back when I played at the line of scrimmage and all the calls and the things you do. But I remember playing against the Raiders. It was my first start, and I'm with the San Diego Chargers. We're playing the Raiders at the LA Coliseum, and Matt Millen is playing middle linebacker for the Raiders. And I get out there, and, I'd never been on the field like that. And Matt Millen's 3 yards away from me. I'm calling out the signals. Of course, back then you're under center for the most part. And I'm giving it the yellow 80, and that was just the start of the cadence. And Matt Millen says, watch the yellow 80, watch the yellow 80. So it'd be the equivalent of watch the Omaha. So I'm just almost laughing, going, and that's the way Matt Millen played. He played with a lot of fun. He was obviously a great player and a hard-nosed player, but he had fun out there. So I thought he actually loosened me up, to be quite honest. Matt, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Matt, how about that? Thank you very much. Hey,
first NFL start, you're nervous?
Final question for you, babe. Would you give your jacket to Brad if you were outside and he needed your jacket because he's freezing cold because he didn't wear his jacket for an outdoor pregame show?
I would give Brad my jacket, my shirt, my tie,
there you go,
my underwear, my pants, anything he wanted, Brad Sham gets. For 1 week, anyway.
You keep the vest. You keep that red vest that you had that you wear during the holidays, right?
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't give him that. No.
Yeah, you keep that. I was just curious because I'm just trying to be a good teammate here.
Yeah.
The old guy, right. About to be 60 on Tuesday. No, don't worry about me. Just trying to be a good teammate, helping out the young guys on this radio station.
I may or may not be wearing Broaddus' Cowboys parka right now, babe, Laufenberg.
Oh, wow.
That's good teammate stuff right there. That's good teammate stuff.
And a early happy birthday to you, Brian.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Heck yeah, babe. You're a beast, man. Appreciate the time as always.
You guys have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
You too. There he goes, Babe Laufenberg, ladies and gentlemen. And how about this, Cowboys fans? Whataburger is rewarding you for helping our local communities. From now to December 18th, stop by your hometown Whataburger to donate $1 to the Salvation Army and receive a Whataburger burger with the purchase of a medium fry and a 32-ounce drink. Whataburger always getting the job done. Broaddus, I got to tell you, might be getting a little sweaty over here in this coat, man. It's a little toasty now. This is fantastic, though. This is a great cowboy jacket. It's a great cowboy jacket.
Bucky Buchanan, the son of the longtime equipment man, Buck Buchanan, hooked me up way back in the day, so I'm glad you got to experience that.
Mr. Buchanan, we love you. Broaddus, thank you for this. This is fantastic. Cowboys Nation is rolling in right now, boys and girls. The doors are open. They already stormed in. They're ready to rock and roll. Sunday night football. Cowboys, Eagles, Cowboys fans. There we go, bringing it strong. Seen one too many Eagles fans tonight, but it's okay. That's going to be one more Eagles fan crying on the way out of AT&T Stadium tonight, and that is a tradition unlike any other here at AT&T Stadium. The Eagles have lost, I believe it's 5 or 6 of their last times they've rolled up in here. The Cowboys rocking with a 14-game winning streak, looking to make it 15 here on Sunday Night Football. It's the official pregame show live on Twitch and YouTube. Let's get the scoop. The best sideline reporter in the business, Christy Scales, joins us next right here on The Fan.
Experience the most.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, just under 2 hours to kick off Sunday Night Football. Good vibes only right now. Cowboys, Eagles, right here in the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. Let's go inside the building on that lovely turf and welcome in the best sideline reporter in the business, Christy Scales, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to get the scoop. Christy, happy game night. How we doing?
Happy game night, doing great. And man, this is an early arriving crowd. Of course, when they open the stadium for the folks with the standing room only, the party passes. I haven't seen the third deck filled that quickly all year. So they were costing about $200 or so early in the week, and the upper deck in the corner, the seats were in the upper 400s. So this crowd is going to be jazzed tonight. And everyone's already talking on the sideline about the electricity and what they're expecting to be an awesome game tonight.
Scoop, there's a lot of Kelly Green out here, I'm telling you. It's heading all your way right now.
Yeah, they've made their way inside, too. And there were a lot yesterday. They had the rally day here, and it was one of the biggest crowds that they've had in years for the rally days, and just a lot of energy. And I was at the Star in Frisco yesterday for an event with Boys and Girls Club and Bank of America, and a lot of fans, visiting fans that come from out of town, out of state, take the tours out at the Star in Frisco on Saturday, as well as the stadium. And there was a lot of green at the Star yesterday too. So Jerry appreciates the Philly fans spending the extra money on the tours.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, it's a playoff atmosphere tonight, no question. I mean, Sunday Night Football, sort of the division on the line to some extent. You know, certainly if the Cowboys lose, it seems like it'll be out of reach. But if they can find a way to win tonight, they are right there in the thick of a division race. And then the MVP stuff. I mean, is it crazy, Christy, to call this one of, if not the biggest regular season game of Dak's career?
Well, just from a perception standpoint nationally, because, yeah, he is in the conversation. And, of course, Jalen Hurts as well. And Sunday, primetime, a division lead on the line. So, yeah, he could do a lot with his narrative. I think David Moore did a beautiful job today in the Dallas Morning News. He used a quote that Dak had a couple weeks ago, talking about he has the pen and he has the paper. Dak, speaking of himself euphemistically, and he's writing his own narrative, and so a chance to really do that tonight. And if he continues to put up the types of numbers that he has over the past several weeks, I mean, it's outstanding. Are you kidding? 6 home games, averaging over 40 points per game, and I know that Seattle was the toughest of those, and it hasn't necessarily been the most difficult opponents for a lot of those, but those are still impressive numbers.
Scoop, you got actually a head coach that dealt with I wouldn't call it an emergency, but he went in and had his surgery. But is there anything different on the sideline? I mean, Mike's going to coach this game, but are they preparing for if he can't get through this game? Is there something that they're working on? Do you know anything about that?
Well, I was just visiting with Cable Johnson, who's the Cowboys director of security, and he's the big blonde-headed guy that you see on the sideline. Yeah, he's not Dom for the Eagles. He's not the one who has to sit out tonight's game like the Eagles guy. Right. But and of course I'll have the interview with Coach McCarthy in about an hour or so and ask him directly. But what I'm told here on the sideline is that nothing is changing logistically, at least so far. Mike is planning on calling the plays. He will do it here from the sideline, not up in the coaching booth. And the main thing was, when you're on the sideline, you have to be so careful just because of the plays, whether it's a crossing route or a guy with a wide release on a punt as a gunner. There are a lot of plays that spill into the sideline. You constantly have to have your head on a swivel and be ready to move out of the way quickly. And so that can be difficult when you're a coach who's had an emergency appendectomy 5 days earlier. Right. So where I was kind of joking around, are you going to put like one of the practice squad offensive linemen nearby just in case, in case someone needs to be an extra blocking back for the head coach, as it were? And they said, no, we're not planning on doing that. And I'm like, well, great, send them my way, because I could use some help down here at the 30-yard line. So right now there are no plans to do things differently in terms of logistics on the sideline.
Christy Scales with us here on 105.3 The Fan, getting you set for Cowboys and Eagles Sunday Night Football. Christy, Micah Parsons popped up on the injury report today with a bit of an illness. I don't know if it's the flu or what he's got going on, but what do you know about that situation?
Yeah, basically like the flu bug that literally has been going around the Star, including the defensive room with coaches and players. And so that was my question to a few different folks down here. Now, Micah is not out here yet for any of the pregame work. Have not seen him out here yet. The only 11s I see are the Cowboys fans wearing the Micah Parsons jerseys. But I'm told that he is not going to be on a certain kind of pitch count. Obviously, it's how he feels, and they'll be keeping an eye on him. And if he needs a rest, but certainly they'll give it to him, and they'll have a rotation if they need to work in. But right now, it's not like they're planning that that they're limiting him or putting him on any kind of pitch count tonight, at least so far. Again, it depends how he feels as we progress through the game.
Scoop, I know you're down there in the middle of all the, any coaches come up giving you any nuggets? Are we going to see any tricks tonight? Bones Fossil, he's got a fake punt, fake field goal. He's got anything in mind that he's going to try and pull on a nationally televised game?
I can't say anything on that, but with special teams, remember that the game Week 9 up in Philly, Turpin had the 49-yard kickoff return. By the way, Turpin is the special teams game captain tonight, so good for Turp. He was our guest on the Cowboy Hour this past Monday, and of course he had the touchdown catch in the Week 9 game at Philly as well, so it was a good one for him. And of course that's the one where he had the shoulder and the rib injury, so he really fought through things there. But when you talk about special teams, you look back at that loss by 5 points to Philly in Week 9, and the Cowboys had 10 penalties in that game. 3 of them were on special teams, and they were really important. One of them was Brandon Aubrey kicking the ball out of bounds on a kickoff, giving Philly the ball at the 40. Another was on a kickoff where that was the one on Rashawn Evans, and that gave Philly a start at their own 40-yard line, and so it was really crucial. And as you look at these two teams, I think the biggest discrepancies statistically are, of course, the Eagles' defense with their pass defense, allowing so many passing yards and being so poor recently, and third down defense, and the Cowboys looking so good on third down offense, and Dak with these out-of-this-world numbers on third down. And, of course, the passing game being so effective for the Cowboys. And right now entering, the Cowboys are the number 3 passing game in the league. But where there's another discrepancy is with penalties. Now, in that Week 9 game, both teams committed 10 penalties. And whenever there was one, it really killed each team. You can look at it and say, oh, man, look at how the drives for the other team, there were a couple on the Cowboys secondary, and that led to touchdown in the second half. And you can go through and go, wow, it killed each team. But the rest of the year, the Eagles are one of the least penalized teams in the league. So they've only committed 65 penalties in 12 games. The Cowboys are the second highest penalized team, 90, just one behind Seattle. And, of course, we saw the flag fest between Seattle and the Cowboys 11 days ago. So I know that it's one of these trite things that you say every week. Oh, the team that doesn't shoot itself in the foot, the team that makes the least mistakes. But when you have two fairly evenly matched teams, it's so true. And that's what I've been talking to the coaches about on the sideline. They're like, we cannot commit those penalties tonight. We can't allow them to continue the drives because of penalties, or hurt ourselves and move ourselves back and having to punt the ball, that as happened in Week 9 up in Philly.
Christy, we got some special Cowboy uniforms tonight?
Yes, it's the color rush. Well, the Cowboys call it the Arctic White. So it's the all white, and it's the white helmet. This is the white helmet with the blue star. So NFL teams are allowed to wear their alternate helmet. In this case, for the Cowboys, it's that white helmet. They can do it 3 times in a season. So this is their 3rd time. The game against the Chargers, and then, of course, the Thanksgiving Day where they had the throwback, the blue jerseys, the blue star, and then tonight. So, yes, it's going to be the Cowboys in their all whites, and then the Eagles will be in their normal green green jerseys and green helmets. So I know that a lot of the players, they really like to wear the white. That's the thing with this generation of players. Anything that's alternate or different, they really like it. But I know Micah and the guys were talking during the week about how much they like the look of the white ones.
Well, that's important. Dion told us many years ago, look good, feel good, play good. And then the Cowboys are going to pay good.
Yeah, it's actually a thing in recruiting, right? With the colleges, and I'm told by college coaches, it's one of the questions
Nobody
that they
wanted
get
to go to Oregon. Nobody wanted to go to Oregon until they broke out those uniforms.
They have like 5 or 6 different ones that they wear in a season. Yeah.
Oh, they wear more than that. I think it's every game they wear a different one.
Oh my gosh, fashion statement for sure. But hey, when you're the home of Nike, that's you got kind of the home court advantage there.
Well, hopefully the Cowboys have their home court advantage working tonight, looking to make it 15 consecutive victories here at AT&T Stadium. Christy, you're the best in the business. Thanks for the time. We'll catch up with you next hour.
Sounds good. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Brian.
There she goes, Christy Scales, brought to you by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. It is Miller time. Broaddus, how about this? I just got an update about one of the games going on right now in the
Seattle
Vikings Raiders.
Oh.
First NFL game to enter the fourth quarter scoreless since 2017. just a patently disgusting game to watch.
Oh, no.
I feel for you Vikings fans and Raiders fans and, of course, the degenerates that have a little something on this game. I hope you hammered the under.
Yeah, I hope you hammer that under for sure.
My Lord.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you also
it's almost
mentioned –
like Army-Navy under right there.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, you want to talk about a crazy ending to bad beat situation.
Oh, God.
That was, as time expired, a useless safety to hit the over yesterday, and many people loved it, and I'm sure just as many couldn't stand it. We got great Tolos out here on the Miller Lite West Plaza hanging out with us, getting set for Cowboys and Eagles Sunday Night Football, and I'm telling you what, if you're making your way over to the game tonight, shout out to Legends Hospitality, AT&T Stadium, the food, the cuisine, always getting it done at the highest level. And very apropos, we're rocking with the Cowboys cheesesteaks tonight.
Cowboy cheesesteaks.
And Broaddus, I know every time you walk into AT&T Stadium for a Cowboy game day, you whisper to yourself, I hope it's a Cowboy cheesesteak Sunday.
Yep, you're right about that.
Your wish is their command, and that's what we're talking about. The rivalry with a classic on the menu since 1999, recipe created by George Wasai, and with all the delicious flavors and spice of what we love in Texas, the biggest selling sandwich on every Dallas Cowboys game day. You're talking about sliced sirloin steak, grilled to perfection with the onions, the secret cheesesteak seasoning, piled high on a soft hoagie bun, and this is the kicker. This is the sweet spot, topped with hot white queso that just sets it off.
That's it, man. It's a masterpiece. When you look at it right there, just waiting for your enjoyment.
Yes, I cannot wait for that. So if you're making your way to AT&T Stadium, the main concourse, sections 203, 219, the upper concourse, wherever you go to get your grub at AT&T Stadium, make sure you snag the best cheesesteak in all of America. That's right. Take that, Philly. We'll go behind enemy lines here, and we'll see if Merill Reese, voice of the Eagles, agrees as we continue to get you set for kickoff. Sunday Night Football here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
It's big.
We are just over 90 minutes to kick off Cowboys-Eagles Sunday Night Football live from AT&T Stadium. The Miller Lite West Plaza, the party is underway. A couple too many Eagles fans, I would say, but Cowboys Nation is loud and proud right now. Absolutely ready to rock and roll to make it 15 straight home victories. And it's time to go inside of AT&T Stadium, the Brad Sham radio booth behind enemy lines with the voice of the Eagles, Mr. Merill Reese, longtime buddy of Brian Broaddus. And Merill, thanks for the time as always, my friend. It's a big one tonight, Merill. It's a big one.
It is a big one. Big one for both teams.
Big one for both teams. What's the vibe right now with these Eagles? I know the city of Philadelphia is ready to burn the building down, but what's going on in that locker room with Sirianni and company?
I think they come into this game confident, the way you want them to come into every game. I don't think they're cocky. I know they're playing. They know they're playing a very, very good team. They're playing a quarterback who is just out of this world. They're playing a great defense. They know what's at stake, and they really respect the Cowboys. There's no yelling and screaming and putting up bulletin board stuff. That just hasn't existed.
Merill, has that changed over the years, you think? I mean, did the fans get into this more than really the two teams? I think there is a lot of respect between these two teams. I think the fans don't respect each other, but the teams do.
Yeah, and I think it goes back 100 years, to when Leroy Jordan kicked out Timmy Brown's teeth in the early 1960s. Yeah. It goes back to that. But that's just the way it's been with the fans. But, look, there have been years, Brian, going back, where you have guys in the locker room And I'm talking about Vermeule's guys and Buddy's guys, especially with Seth Joyner and guys like Andre Waters, and they would tend to say things. But this is a group of professional guys, and there aren't any big mouths in the locker room.
Yeah, Merill, you mentioned Seth Joyner, one of the great all-time Philadelphia players. Where do you stand about his comments? I know he does pre- and post-game show for the Eagles there, but his comments about the secondary and the lack of tackling and maybe the willingness of the lack of tackling, is that something that Eagle players, do they take to heart because he is a sort of former great Eagle player, or is it just, okay, it's what we're dealing with right now, we had a bad game against the 49ers?
Well, first of all, he doesn't do a show for the Eagles.
Okay.
Let me make that clear.
Okay.
He's on WIP on Monday mornings, and I think he's on another podcast or another post-game television show. So I don't know how much they hear it, but it's, it gets out there. And I don't know how many of these guys really know who Seth Joyner is, because this is a whole different era. But Seth Joyner is a very cerebral guy, and he loves this team. He still loves this team. And he has his opinions on what they should be doing, how aggressive they should be. He's a perfectionist. He's very, very bright. It's interesting to listen to, but he's giving his opinion. And I think this Eagles team, for the most part, does what they call shut out the noise, or Jalen Hurts says he never takes the rat poison.
Okay.
Voice of the Eagles, Merill Reese, with us here on 105.3 The Fan, getting you set for Cowboys-Eagles. Does it feel like, is this, the defense, you can say what you want about how hard they're trying with the tackling and things, but are they just exhausted right now? They've played more snaps defensively over the last few weeks by a large margin than any other team in the league.
I think the word exhaustion might have set in last week, because the week before they played 5 quarters against Buffalo.
Right.
And they had a lot of injuries, particularly on the defense. So they had guys like Reed Blankenship played almost 120 plays, and Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, those guys who weren't used to it. They were more playing in limited roles, important roles, but they weren't playing a full slate. They were out there, and they were playing like 70 and 80 plays during that game. So I think they went into the San Francisco game exhausted. They were okay for about a quarter, and then the air went out of the balloon, and they were just fighting to keep on their feet. I think Nick Sirianni knows how to rest them. He doesn't overdo it at practice. They don't wear pads. They don't hit. I think he eased it up. They didn't even come in the building till Wednesday for the first time. So I think it's been very light, and I think their stamina should be back.
Merill, the Eagles did win the Shaq Leonard sweepstakes between the two teams. Any indication of, is he going to play tonight? How much is he going to play? Anybody told you any of that information?
Yeah, Nick pretty much intimated that he will play tonight, but it will be in a limited role. I don't think you're going to see him out there for 40 snaps, but he will be in there in certain key situations.
Okay, very good. Now, when it comes to Jalen Hurts, Merill, last year he was high flying. Really dominant from start to finish. What is he banged up right now? What are you seeing from Jalen Hurts?
He's 100% fine. And can I tell you something? In some ways, he's better than last year. He's a more experienced quarterback. He's reading things beautifully. Does a lot of things well. But there are things that they are doing that they have had another year to figure out what to do with him, and he acts as a +1, and so they're putting people at the line of scrimmage to contain him somewhat. The running Jalen Hurts is not as prevalent as he has been in the past, but I can tell you, when you played him the last time, he had a bruised knee and went out for a play or so. But I will tell you this: the knee is fine. He's as close to 100% as you can be after 12 games.
Merill, you have to be excited if you're an Eagles fan to have Dallas Goedert back in this one, because the tight end play the last 3 weeks for the Eagles, it really, you just lose such an element with the screen game, the third down packages that you have with him.
You're absolutely right.
They have to be super happy that he's part of this offense again tonight.
They are, and he is. I saw him at the hotel today, and he just can't wait to get back into action. He's a guy who loves to play football, and he's happy to be down here for this game. He's excited, and he's got to be a significant part of the offense.
Now, Merill, when it comes to when it comes to these teams and you just seeing the Niners, and we've been like here locally, gosh, these Niners, can we hang with them? And then the Eagles get smashed by them. Do you feel like either one of these Eagles or Cowboys can go toe-to-toe with the Niners in a playoff scenario?
See, when you say in a playoff scenario, you're talking about 6 weeks away, 5-6 weeks away at least. And a lot of things can happen. It's when people used to talk to me about before the season, how do you think the Eagles are going to play when they go to Dallas? And this is in June. I said, if you can tell me who's going to be standing for each team on December the 10th, I'd have a better idea. So all they have to do is lose a Deebo Samuel. Or all they have to do is lose a McCaffrey or Brock Purdy. I mean, or a Fred Warner, one of those guys, Nick Bosa. We don't know who's going to be up for them or for your team or the Eagles. So it's projection in the future. I think the 49ers are a very good team. They were the best team on the field last week, but that was last week, and today they're playing a Seattle team without Geno Smith.
Yeah, they're very fortunate with that. And I was going to ask you, Merill, about your secondary today. And, you know, it is what it is. You guys have struggled to get off the field on third down. You've struggled in a lot of areas, though. Is there something that you can point to, or is it something that's scheme-related, or is it personnel-related for the Eagles in the secondary?
Well, you know, they have made a lot of big plays when they've had to. That's how they've been able to win 10 games.
Sure.
The secondary still has talent. They have experience. I mean, when you're talking about people like Darius Slay and James Bradbury, these are not rookies. They know what they're doing. I don't think it's any secret if you were to look at an area and say this is not as strong as you'd like it, it would be at the linebacker spot. Nakobe Dean was supposed to be the guy this year, and he went down. But look, they've got some great pass rushers, and Hassan Reddick is as good as ever.
Yeah, I saw them moving Reddick around a little bit last week. He's usually rushing off the offensive right side. He had his way with Terrence Steele a few weeks back. Are they starting to kind of move him around and keep offenses guessing a little bit?
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they move him around. They do whatever they can to free him up. But he's a terrific football player, and he's got 9.5 sacks. Now, I know that your guy, number 11, Micah Parsons, has, 11.5 sacks. But, look, he's still playing very, very well.
Yep.
Yeah, no, Reddick is, I think part of the game plan tonight, Broaddus, is just offensively for the Cowboys. Don't let Hassan Reddick ruin your evening. Now, Merill, I know you come from the neck of the woods where pizza is beloved, and I'm curious. One of these Eagles guys, Ross Tucker, he's part of our Odyssey family. We appreciate him. He joins our morning show from time to time throughout the football season. I'm going to ask him hopefully here in the press box in a little bit if I get a chance to see him. But I saw him take a photo of a pizza. I believe it was in Philadelphia, and the pizza had baked beans as a topping. Can you explain that, please, Merill?
I can. I know nothing about it, but it does not seem particularly appetizing to me.
Okay, then we
Merill knows.
We see eye to eye.
I've dined with Merill before. His palate is outstanding.
Merill knows his way around a good pizza.
I've been to dinner with him. He is not going to put beans on his pizza.
No, I'm not going to put beans on pizza. No.
What are you putting on a pizza, Merill?
I'm not adverse to a little pepperoni or a little sausage. That would be fine. Mushrooms are good, but not beans on a pizza.
Amen, Merill. We'll get you out on that note. Thanks for the time, as always, brother. Enjoy the game.
Thanks, guy. You guys enjoy it, too. Always good to speak with you.
Thanks, Merill. Appreciate you, man.
There he goes, voice of the Eagles, Merill Reese, a man that Broaddus goes way back with.
I've been fine dining with that man.
Yes, you
Seriously,
have.
That's Philadelphia legend right there.
Speaking of fine dining and local legends, how about Papa John's, ladies and gentlemen? It's big, it's good, and it's only for Cowboys fans. The Cowboys special from Papa John's, a large one-topping pizza for only $9.99. Order today. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we keep talking about a particular tight end for these Eagles, Mr. Dallas Goedert, but I think they're going to get a little taste of old Mr. Ferguson tonight.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get a taste of Ferguson, and he's been a beast for these Cowboys. You mentioned earlier, we're starting to see some Cowboys fans repping the Ferguson jerseys.
Sure are.
He's starting to become a fan favorite, and he's turning into a real super beast.
He absolutely is. And his ability, the toughness that he plays with, his ability, Dak Prescott loves him because he'll go get the football.
Yes.
He's not afraid on the seam routes to extend himself. He's not afraid to break the in cuts and extend himself right there. The play that he made along in the end zone, the touchdown that he had, where he was able to extend when Jamal Adams was right there on top of him, could have been an interception, but no, Ferguson makes the play. The way he's able to, in the open field, the run after catch,
yes.
all these things are super positive. And we've seen Reed Blankenship, the safety for the Philadelphia Eagles, have struggles in coverage. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys try and find a way to get Ferguson on Blankenship and see if they could take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, Ferguson, it seems like, and I mean this very respectfully, he's got a little crazy in him.
Yeah,
he's
sure
got kind of a screw loose.
He sure
a little
does.
bit. And,
he sure does.
You love to have that attitude on your offense. I mean, he's running through people, he's jumping over people, he's getting in their face, he's willing to take a big hit. I mean, I love his catch radius is huge, and it's huge even when it's in the middle of the field and he knows he's got a safety breathing down his neck. He's like, I'm still going to be here for my guy.
No, he absolutely is. And that's what he's saying. You talk about reliable players for you. You need to be able to go for it, and he's that type of guy.
He absolutely is. Jake Ferguson, you're a beast, and I think he's going to show up in a big way tonight. CeeDee Lamb is going to have all eyes on him, and he will still get his because he's that good, and Dak is that good at finding him, and McCarthy and company are that good at setting him up for success. But I think Jake Ferguson is in store for a monster evening, and we are in store for a monster final hour of the official pregame show of America's team. Mike Tirico, Mike McCarthy, Jerry Jones, absolutely loaded as we continue to get you set for Sunday Night Football next year on The Fan.
Here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
An hour and 20 minutes to the NFL Game of the Week, ladies and gentlemen. Sunday Night Football here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, live at AT&T Stadium. The Miller Lite West Plaza is where the party is at as Cowboys fans get ready for the biggest game of the regular season. NFC East clash, looking to keep the hopes alive to win this NFC East division. Cowboys rocking and rolling here at AT&T Stadium. 14 straight, looking to make it 15 over the filthy Eagles. Jalen Hurts and company limping into this one after getting shellacked by the Niners last week. Cowboys off 10 days rest, feeling good, ready in their icy Arctic white uniforms to go get it done on national television. Dak keeping his MVP hopes alive, and the Cowboys keeping their first place division hopes alive. Bryan Broaddus, no place we'd rather be. You, sir, a Super Bowl champion, a former Cowboys scout, a guy who knows a thing or two about these Eagles. Let's preview this bad boy, brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Broaddus, offensively, what is the Cowboys' path to victory tonight?
Well, I think that we always talk about, everybody who says balance. You talk about how, your ability to run the football. I really don't think it's going to be balanced tonight. I think it's going to be Cowboys finding ways to attack this Eagles secondary that's really been under duress a lot of these weeks. I know Merill was talking about the players and all that. He's right about the talent but they haven't played at a very high level.
Yeah.
They've struggled at safety. They've struggled at corner. They've struggled at linebacker. If you find a way to kind of contain their pass rush, and I don't see them with the situation with Hassan Reddick. I don't know if they're going to let him just run off the edge. So I think you have to be mindful of him about moving him maybe outside, moving him maybe a gap over, maybe allowing him not to rush at such an angle where he's going to get off the shoulder of Terrence Steele there. So there's a lot that's going to go into this passing game, but Dallas and their ability to throw the football, I think, will be huge tonight. And the more that you can attack this Eagles secondary, continue to create that doubt that they can play against you when you get an 11 personnel, or you line up in empty and you put all those wide receivers out there, and then they have to find ways to match up. Keep them on their heels this entire night with your passing game.
And you mentioned Hassan Reddick. He's a guy who had his way with Terrence Steele in this first matchup. And he's certainly their best defensive player. He's a guy that can wreck the game for you. Offensively, I think you have to pinpoint him before every snap, identify where he's at. Don't let him be the guy to ruin what is hopefully going to be a special offensive night here for the Cowboys. Now, when you go back to that first game, CeeDee Lamb couldn't be stopped. Are they just going to have 2-3 guys? Are they bracketing him? I mean, is the Eagles' idea likely to be don't let Lamb beat us?
Well, you have to go into this game feeling like that might be the case, and with the way that Lamb is able, and a lot of those plays were Dak moving in the pocket, Dak beating pressure, Dak now escaping to his right, and all of a sudden CD's kind of broke his route off, and now he goes to the sideline. So he finds that space between the safety and the corners right there. So all of a sudden now the ball's coming over the top, and there were several times where he was able to break routes off, and then Prescott was able to find him.
Yeah, and they did a great job working him in the slot in the last game. We know CeeDee Lamb has, really made a career off dominating in the slot, but especially that first matchup because there's guys you can pick on there, right? I mean, Eli Ricks, it was last time. They get Bradley Roby back the nickel corner for the Eagles tonight.
Well, that's the whole thing, and the Eagles have really struggled at that nickel corner spot, and they've also struggled on the other side too. Now, you'll see these corners flip sides. They'll travel with. They'll play opposite sides, and then they'll flip, and so you can't really get a beat on them. But we'll start to see. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of Lamb in the slot, that maybe Slay goes in the slot. Now, if that's the case, who's going to play on the outside?
Right.
That's where now all of a sudden where others have to take advantage. That's where Cooks, Tolbert, maybe even some Michael Gallup will have to make an appearance in this game. So if all of a sudden they try and take things away from you in the slot, others have to step up, because that's taking Slay from the outside, putting him inside, and now someone's having to step up and play on the outside for him.
Yeah, this Eagles defense has been on the field a lot over the course of the last 5 or 6 games. They had an overtime game that went basically the full length of the extra quarter, and the Cowboys are coming in here on extra rest, so I feel like you're going to have
San Francisco did the same thing to them on a Thanksgiving. They came in with 10 days rest and played them after that Buffalo game, which was very difficult. So that was clearly, here's back-to-back for the Eagles having to deal with teams that have had 10 days rest on them.
Eagles, one of the worst, or actually the worst defense in terms of getting off the field on third downs. Their red zone defense has been problematic, and they give up a ton of explosive passing plays through the air. So should be Dak Prescott and company licking their chops tonight versus this Eagles team. But Hassan Reddick, number 7, that's the guy to circle before every snap. Make sure he's not wrecking shop on this Cowboys offensive line. As we flip the script here and look at this Eagles offense, Broaddus, what would you say is the path to victory here to slow down Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and they get their tight end back. They get back Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, they're like with the Cowboys, you talk about all the weapons that they have. The Eagles have just as many weapons. A premier tight end, the receivers, maybe even the Eagles' offensive line, probably a little bit better than the Cowboys' offensive line. And I think the Eagles actually, they can run the ball maybe a little bit better than what Dallas can do. And that's why I'm saying I don't think when you start to talk about balance, if they get Pollard going in this football game, if they get Dowdle going in this game, even some of the jet sweep stuff that they've been able to do, they got to find a way. If you get a $125, $130 in this game going along with how the quarterback's playing, that's going to be a path to victory for the Cowboys. But on the flip side of that, the Eagles, Merill Reese was talking to the play-by-play voice for the Eagles about Jalen Hurts not being hurt.
Right.
I felt like, though, when they played the first time around, he was hurt. I think right now he is trying his best to protect himself. But I will say this, Eric, in this football game, if Dallas all of a sudden decides that they want to rush and they want to get out of the lanes and not be disciplined and not try and keep him in the pocket and not try and make him make those, if all of a sudden you get Armstrong and Oso Digizua, and next thing you know, Lane Johnson and those guys are pinning him to the inside, and there's a path to run for Hurts, he's going to take that. He's going to run, he's going to move, and he's going to go through there, and he's just going to go out of bounds, or he's going to go and get down.
Just steal first downs.
He's going to steal first downs all day on you, and, it's not that he doesn't want to run. It's he will run if he has to, and I think that's where the Cowboys need to be alert tonight.
Inside the Numbers brought to you by Papa John's, the official pizza of the Dallas Cowboys. Better ingredients, better pizza. It is Papa John's as the most iconic cheerleading team. Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders making their way here in the Miller Lite West Plaza. The party's rocking and rolling. Always a good sight when the cheerleaders are involved. But these numbers are pretty amazing. I mean, you could sort through a ton of them and just have your mind blown with what this Cowboys team and this offense has been doing. Cowboys averaging a league high 41 points per game at home this season. Again, it's 14 consecutive home victories, looking to make it 15. But I feel like if I'm McCarthy and he gets an opportunity at the coin toss to make a decision on whether or not to take the football, I actually think this is a great night to defer to the second half and let your defense go out there. The Eagles all season long have started slow. I mean, in half their games this year, they've been trailing.
Yeah.
Whereas last year, they got off to fast starts. They were rocking and rolling, well-oiled machine offensively. This year, a little bit more stagnant. Their pace of play is slower, and they're just trying to get things figured out. And in some of these games, they've been able to do that in the second half and eke out some victories. But I think it would be a great opportunity. Let your defense set the tone tonight and get the crowd behind you, and then get that ball in half number 2 ready to rock and roll in the third quarter.
Well, the Cowboys did a poor job against Seattle. We talk about the middle 8, the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And Seattle scored 14 points in the middle 8. So, you can't, you have to be very mindful of that when you're playing these games is, do you want to have the ball, in the start the second half? Do you want to try and create, say you get that final drive, say you get that 2-minute drive and you get points and all that, and then all of a sudden now you get the ball to start the second half, and then you put that even more pressure. I think Mike needs to play defense first. You get the crowd, get everybody, there's so much energy to start the game. And, you want to get the crowd involved in that energy, and playing defense will do a lot for you that way.
All right, Mike Tirico, NBC Sunday Night Football. Tirico on the call tonight. Hey, Mike, what is Nick Sirianni really like?
Oh, he's direct. He's direct and aggressive and honest, and there's not a lot of gray area, and that's fine. That's perfect. That's what you like with a coach, right? He's one of those guys that, and we've seen them in all sports, right? You hate them when they're on the other side, but if they were your guy, you'd love them, right? Those are the characters in sports. Think of like Rick Mahorn and Bill Laimbeer when the bad boys were around for the NBA with the Pistons, right? Like, man, I can't stand those guys. But in Detroit, where I live, those guys are freaking legends, right? Those guys represent the best of an era of basketball. So that's what Sirianni is. He's unapologetically aggressive. His team plays that way, and you love that. When your team plays to the personality of your head coach, then you know you're doing everything in the same direction. It may not work all the time, but at least you're rowing the boat in the same direction. That's what they have in Philly.
Thank you, Mike Tirico. Okay, Nick Sirianni. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they love him there in Philadelphia. Well, it's probably week to week. They probably don't love him right now after what took place last week versus the Niners. But he's certainly been impressive. How about this, Broaddus? In the last 3 seasons, only Andy Reid has won more regular season games than Mike McCarthy and Nick Sirianni.
Yeah.
Andy Reid, 34 victories over the last 3 seasons. Mike McCarthy and Nick Sirianni each have 33 regular season wins under their belt. So definitely been really, really good for these Eagles, but I think they're running into a Cowboys team tonight that is just absolutely flying high with the way that they've been playing, especially offensively.
Well, and you're absolutely right about that. I think the thing with Nick Sirianni is you have to talk about the way he has been able to – he's embraced the Philadelphia Eagle fan base, the culture that they have. He's taken on that persona, the chip on your shoulder guy. It's us against the world type of guy. And so, that's what the city loves. They love somebody that will embrace who they are, embrace that personality. And, and I think Nick's done a really good job. I think Howie Roseman's done a really good job of picking players. These are 2 teams that are very evenly matched. And you look at the rosters, and it's like, okay, this guy cancels this guy. This guy cancels this guy. Okay, this guy, there's you go through the whole roster, and there's a lot of canceling of each other's players, both offensively and defensively.
Just over an hour to kick off Sunday Night Football. Mike Tirico, you, sir, on the call. Do you agree with Tom Brady when he says the quality of play in the league is down this year?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I've thought about this a little bit. So let me just take the NFL. So I think the NFL and the college conversations are 2 really super different. If you ever wanted to go down that college road at some point, call me anytime. We could have that conversation. Yeah. I'm very passionate about where it's gone and where it's going, the totality of the sport. But the NFL stuff, I'm going to point to this. Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Eli Manning, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, those guys, right? Joe Flacco when he was playing really well, and now obviously he's resurfaced with Cleveland. I'm talking like a half dozen guys. You know what? Every time they played, you got a good game. Their teams were good, right? I think the level of quarterback play has gone down a bit. And I look at the middle class of the quarterbacks. And I see them missing. And I think that's the problem. When you have great quarterbacks, you get these great games. We've had so many injuries and so many young guys trying to figure it out in the league, year 2, year 3, new system, that I think the overall quality of the quarterback play has dropped. And what I don't understand is that we've got more teams than ever throwing the ball in college football. And everybody's brother and their kid plays 7-on-7. I got this quarterback over here who plays 7-on-7. He's the best thrower of the ball I've seen in 30 years. So why are we not seeing that translate from 7-on-7 to high school to college to the NFL? I don't know what the exact answer is. I got some theories. But I think that's why the general quality of play has come down a little bit from what we saw maybe 5, 7, 8 years ago. I don't know if you guys think the quality's down. I think it's a notch down from where it was, let's say, in 2017, 2018.
Yeah, I totally get what Tirico is saying here, and I think a lot of it has to do with the quarterbacks and the influx of young quarterbacks, and there's always going to be growing pains, and when you have young quarterbacks going through growing pains, it can oftentimes look like a lesser-than version of what you're used to seeing when you got goats like Brady and Breeze throwing the ball around.
No, absolutely. I've already started looking at players for the draft and the Caleb Williams and Drake Mays and then my guy with Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman Trophy at LSU. These quarterbacks, they get thrown into the fire very early because general managers don't have time to wait, because what's happening is these general managers their jobs are going to be on the line. And so, they have to find a way when they select these quarterbacks. You got to find a way to win early. We see what happened with Houston, and their quarterback situation looks like that it's very, very good right now, and that's the kind of stuff that'll save Nick Sirianni's job going forward.
Just over 60 minutes to kick off here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, live in the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium, getting you set for Cowboys-Eagles Sunday Night Football, the NFC East divisional clash. Who's going to win the division? MVP awards at stake. So much fun as we build up to kickoff tonight. And let's hear from Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. He had one heck of a week. How is he feeling after the appendix surgery and so much more? Mike McCarthy joins us next. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Every moment.
Cowboys Radio Network. We're live in the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. Cowboys looking to make it 15 straight victories. And with the Eagles in town limping into this one, I'm feeling good about it. But speaking of limping in, head coach Mike McCarthy dealing with an emergency appendectomy earlier this week. He's tough as nails. He's built Ford tough. He's here in the building tonight ready to give him hell. And he's standing by with the best sideline reporter in the business, Christy Scales, for tonight's Coach's Corner. Christy, take it away.
Well, Mike, what we'd like to do is combine your pregame coaches interview with the first injury report from the sideline, and that is to say that we are happy to say you have gone from questionable on Wednesday afternoon with an emergency appendectomy to how do we describe your state of readiness for tonight?
I'm ready to go. Everything's good.
Have there had to be any changes logistically on the sideline?
No, not at all. Our operation will be exactly the same. We just, had our weekly meeting with the officials, and we're status quo.
What is it that impressed you most about the way not only your coaching staff but the way the players handled the curveball that was thrown at them this week with your surgery?
I just think it speaks volumes about the players and coaches, the whole operations department, and it's just really, when we talk about culture, when we talk about program, talk about process, this was a great illustration of what it's supposed to look like. Everything was set for the week, Monday, Tuesday, so the timing of it was probably pretty good from that perspective administratively, but the players and coaches just kept rolling. So you could see it on the video, Thursday afternoon, and then obviously was back in there Friday. So team didn't miss a beat.
One thing that changed this morning is that Micah Parsons was added to the injury list due to illness. How's he feeling, and does that illness have him on any kind of snap count tonight?
Well, his status is he's going to go, so we're just making sure that we're doing everything we can just to make sure he's comfortable.
You spoke with the media on a conference call on Friday, and the fans along the Cowboys Radio Network don't get to hear that conference call. And so I want to ask you about something you talked about, because it was in regards to extending plays on offense, the plus 2.3 second threshold. And you've had a lot of big plays off of that this year. And you used an analogy as to it being like a fast break on basketball. I think that's so instructive, and I'd love for you to share that with the listeners.
I think just like anything, you always look for analogies in other sports, and I think that in particular it's the scramble phase. Every pass play we put in has the potential to go to a scramble phase, because every pass play usually has a normal time clock of 2.3 seconds or less. So, and if you just look at history, look at the numbers and the statistics, the benefits of playing above the 2.3 in the scramble phase. And so, no different than any play design where you have a primary receiver, a secondary receiver, you're trying to get the proper spacing, trying to form triangles. There's an awareness of the quarterback to his left and right. They're just, all characteristics of a healthy scramble drill.
And I think that most fans and media, when they think about that, they think of it as Dak's ability to extend the plays, but it's just as much on the receivers, the tight ends, and of course the line to be able to give that extra time.
Yeah, definitely. And the protection awareness too. It's what kind of rush lane discipline and what kind of rush lane patterns are we expecting, anticipating, and actually getting from our opponent. It's no different tonight. How is Philadelphia going to rush us? There are a number of games and a combination of stunts and things like that. So it really starts with the pass rush, the escape route, and then everything's tied into that.
One of the things that you had talked about early in the week was entering this final trimester and then having the long weekend coming into this game of some of the extra self-scouting and how you could implement that into practice during the week. What are some of the things that you saw with that and that are specific points moving forward in this final trimester?
I just, biggest thing is, there's always schematic variations you're moving to and from. That's no different this week. So I think just, how you look at this run, big picture, that's really what Monday morning was about. Then once we got into Monday afternoon, everything we've been focused on is beating the Eagles. So in everything we've done is, tied to, what we feel is going to give us success today.
One more question about your offense before we move to the defensive side of the ball, and that is, as you were going through preparations this week for the Eagles defense, were you assuming that Shaq Leonard, who signed with them early in the week, might be available and part of some packages?
Yeah, we're anticipating that. So, but like anything, it'll be the first time he lines up, so that there's always a newness to that when these transitions happen late in the year like this.
In regards to the Cowboys defense, Dan Quinn was saying something interesting during the week, and that is in regards to Philly and their success on 3rd and short, and particularly 4th and short, and the media and fans get carried away with the tush push or whatever you want to call it. But he was basically saying that Philly's not a traditional 3rd down team, that for them 3rd and 5 is not necessarily a pass play, because if they can get a couple yards, assuming that they would go for it on 4th down. I wonder if you think that is a trend moving forward in the league, or something that analytics shows, or is it more specific to their personnel and what they have with Hurts and, of course, a really good offensive line?
I mean, it's clearly a trend that's been going on in the league now probably for about 10 years. I think clearly if you just look at the statistics for the amount of 4th downs that are being attempted, today compared to 10 years ago. So it shows you that, you have to look at 2nd down a little differently, 3rd down a little differently. And every team varies on, where their range is. So, and Phillies is distinctly different because of their success with the tush push.
And one thing with obviously A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, the great weapons that they have in the passing game. Deron Bland, you talked about how he responded in the second half against Seattle. Could you talk about his work during the week?
Well, no, I mean, it was a normal week. I mean, Seattle was a game that, obviously was corrected on Monday, and and just really we picked up from there and go. Yeah, but Deron had a normal week, and he'll be ready to go.
We appreciate the visit. Thanks so much. Glad you're feeling well.
All right, great seeing you.
Thank you. You too, Mike. And as we continue counting down to the Eagles and Cowboys in primetime, let's rejoin Bryan and Eric.
Thank you so much, Christy. Broaddus, one of the things that makes me queasy when I think about a big game like this involving the Cowboys, which team is going to show up when it comes to the penalties.
Yeah.
If you're going to be that team that is second in the league in penalties, then I have a sick feeling in my stomach that you're going to get out of here alive. What do we know about tonight's crew, John Hussey and company? Can you give me a Hussey report?
I'll give you a Hussey report. Yeah, when you talk about him and his crew rank as the 5th most penalizing officials in the league. So, they've officiated 11 games. But a lot of it has been made about the Eagles' record with him as an official. A lot has been made about everybody feels like that, okay, this is going to go strictly into the Eagles' favor with him as an official. But what you find out is the more you look at John Hussey this season, he's actually him and his crew have called more penalties against the visiting team than they have the home team. So here with the Cowboys playing at AT&T Stadium, we'll see if that trend holds. The penalties that John Hussey's crew tends to call, false starts. Now, Mike McCarthy is very keen on what's going on with these officials and what's going on with his opponent. We've seen in the past where Lane Johnson, they have that ability to kick away from the line of scrimmage, snap the ball. Kelsey triggers with his head movement, and then Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata are off the ball. It appears early every time, but you slow it down on film, they're really close. So we'll see if, in fact, here's Hussey's crew. They've called a lot of false start penalties. Let's see if, in fact, the Cowboys have notified, like, listen, you've got to call that and see if it works. Okay. Then, when you start to talk about the second most penalized plays that they call are offensive holding. Okay.
Good.
So then
it's about time.
So now when you're looking at Micah Parsons' situation, and you can say it for the Eagles too.
For sure.
You can see it for the Eagles when you want to do that too as well. You're in a situation where you kind of like thinking, okay, is it going to go both ways? Or is it? But the thing you want, I would love for this game to be one where John Hussey's crew, they had a game this year, San Francisco and Cleveland, 25 penalties were called in that game.
My gosh.
And if you get a game where, the division, lead is on the line and you're calling 25 penalties against two teams, that ain't good for the product.
No, we don't need a ref show tonight, Hussey.
No ref show. Either let them play or make sure that, maybe it's one or two penalties going each way. But that's John Hussey's crew, things you got to be worried about today.
I'll tell you what, it has been super egregious, the lack of holding calls called on Micah. I mean, Micah Parsons, he should have either a bunch more sacks or a bunch more 1st and 20s. Because, I mean, my goodness, man, every single game. And I know the Cowboys are doing a Micah Parsons cut-up reel and sending it to the league every week after a Cowboy game day, after he gets held half the time and gets no flags drawn. Maybe tonight will be the night. But John Hussey and company, let's not make it about you, John.
No, if you're going to just either let them play or, like I say, try and stay out of it. If it's one or two flags, if it's a game where it's 3-3, 6 total calls for both teams, I think everybody would be happy about that.
I'll tell you what, I'll be happy if Mike McCarthy finds a way to absolutely nail the end of the game, the end of the half, the game management things. He's done wonders, him and Brian Schottenheimer and the rest of this offensive coaching staff and these players all putting their input in and creating a new offense from the bye week to now that is high-flying, explosive, and a true joy to watch. And we're watching Dak Prescott at the height of his powers, CeeDee Lamb having a career year, so many dudes contributing.
Jake Ferguson.
Yeah, Jake Ferguson emerging as one of the better young tight ends in all of football. So much to give credit to Mike McCarthy for. But the game management things, you got out alive versus Seattle last week. But, I mean, it's a 2-point conversion you pass up that could have tied the game. Late in the game, it's 3rd down. You throw into the end zone. That is
no timeouts.
No timeouts for Seattle, and you could really take some time off the clock there. But you don't get the points, and you leave them time. You give them a 2nd and 19 instead of a 3rd and 7 or whatever it was. I mean, there was a handful of things where you're going, what's the deal here? And I just want to make sure and hope that if it gets down to the nitty gritty in this game tonight, that Mike McCarthy's ready to rock and roll and make the right call.
Well, we talked about the last time that these two teams met. I call it 9-1-1. And those are the emergencies at the end of the game when you have no timeouts. You're trying to run up to the ball. You're trying to make things happen. Dallas really botched that whole. They had the penalties, they had the sacks, they had all kinds of problems. They just need to manage that a lot better. Mike, these games you cannot with the way how even these two teams are. You can't let coach and be the difference between the two. When you look at how this game could be played out.
Oh, my gosh, I want it so bad. I want all of these rabid, filthy Eagles fans to walk out of here with tears running down their eyes, sadness and anger. That's what I need. We need to drop kick the Eagles tonight at AT&T Stadium, make it 15 straight home victories. We continue to get you set for kickoff here on the official pregame show of America's team. We're live in the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. 45 minutes to Sunday Night Football. Cowboys, Eagles, let's get to know the enemy, and let's go into the owner's box with an NFL Cowboy legend. Next, Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Tom Thumb's new drive-up.
Sunday Night Football, ladies and gentlemen. We inch closer and closer to Sunday Night Football. Cowboys kickoff here in the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. Just a monster Cowboy party here on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. And to spice things up even more, I believe standing by in the owner's box, not the Hall of Fame general manager and owner of your Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, but another Hall of Famer, Mr. Emmitt Smith, Deuce, standing by with Christy Scales for tonight's owner's box. Christy, take it away.
Well, stepping into the owner's box is Emmitt Smith, Hall of Famer, Ring of Honor member, and Emmitt is all right in the NFL world when it's Cowboys, Eagles, NFC East lead on the line.
It's even better when the Cowboys win. So, but tonight is a big night. It's a big night for us. It's a big night to showcase that we are continuing to make some progress. Over the last 3 or 4 weeks, we played well, and tonight is no different.
What do you see as the biggest progress? Obviously, Dak is playing lights out, and the passing game is putting up great numbers.
I feel like the offense has expanded. I think Dak is throwing the ball around to various different types of players. I think McCarthy play calling has expanded from what we saw in the first 5 or 6 weeks, and so which makes the offense a little bit more dynamic. And having that diversity in terms of different people making plays just create more opportunities for others to come and do things, to create opportunities for McCarthy to disguise the offense.
What do you see with the running game? Because Tony Pollard's numbers are above average. They're pretty good, but he really has been running hard and getting some yards after contact these past few weeks.
Right. Well, I'm happy for him because, first of all, he had a pretty significant injury last year as the season ended. And to see him bounce back and play as well as he's playing, and not only that, but being in the number 1 spot against teams that are gearing up for him every week, he's doing great if you ask me. His numbers may not be where they were last year or may not be as flashy as things were last year, but I understand when you're the number 1 guy and every team and every defensive coordinator, number 1 mission is to stop the number 1 guy. And so he's doing great.
And the Eagles' defensive line, first-round picks across the board. It's nothing new. Even with your time, it seemed like the defensive line was always the strength of the Eagles.
Right. Well, it is, and this team is built inside out, built tough. And it's going to be a tough ball game for us tonight. And best measuring stick that we can do for ourselves is to play well against this front that they have up there, a bunch of number 1 draft picks and so forth, Fletcher Cox and all those guys. So it's going to be a physical test for us, but this is how you get better. This is the way you get better. This is how you know you're built and you're ready to roll into the playoff and being in games like this.
One last question for Emmitt Smith, and that is, as a former NFL League MVP yourself, what do you think that a great game tonight can do for Dak Prescott and his narrative? Because the numbers he's put up and the success over the last month, he is now in the conversation.
Right, he is in the conversation, but the bar is so high for us. You know, being a Dallas Cowboy, the bar is extremely high. You have to do exceptional things. Not to say he's not playing well. He's playing very well right now. But they're gonna judge him based off of the number more victories we have and who we beat from here on out. He's been judged in this next 4 months. And so even though he played well in the last 4 weeks or so last month, it's these 4 months, and then it's the playoff that really matters for a lot of folks.
But it seems like he embraces that. But you had that same type of mentality as well.
Right. He should embrace it. And because at the end of the day, being MVP and your team is not in the playoff, it doesn't mean much. When you're an MVP and your team is in the playoff and you're taking them to the NFC Championship game and potentially winning it, it means a lot then because you feel like you've earned everything because it's not just about you, it's about how well our team is doing too. And so it'll be a bittersweet moment for him to be MVP and our team not to be doing well.
We appreciate the visit. Thanks so much. That's Emmitt Smith in the owner's box as we continue counting down to Eagles and Cowboys in primetime on Sunday Night Football. Let's rejoin Bryan and Eric.
Well, how about that? It's always fun when you can welcome Emmitt Smith into the pregame party. The owner's box tonight brought to you by Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza. It is Papa John's. And, talking about a little MVP action.
Yeah.
It's all there for the taking for Dak. There's no question it's all about winning for him, and being a Super Bowl champion here in Dallas will ring true forever. in a way that an MVP wouldn't quite hit if it didn't also accompany a Super Bowl championship. So, but still, it's a fun conversation to be had here in the thick of the season and it all being out in front of them and this tough stretch. I mean, this is really what we want to see from Dak and this team going toe-to-toe with playoff caliber teams. You get that tonight. You got a little taste of it last week with Seattle, and then you get to Buffalo, Miami, Detroit kind of falling off. But this is going to be a good test. It's going to be a ton of fun, and you know it matters when it's a national game, Sunday Night Football, game of the week, all eyes on you. You go out and have a big night. It could change the entire story.
Well, Dak needs to be careful tonight in this regard, though. Don't do too much. Don't be the guy that, and there's a lot on the line for both teams. And, the one thing you don't want to do if you're Dak Prescott is we always talk about him, when he feels the game. He takes a hit, he gets a run, the blood, the mud, and all that. That's kind of gets Dak Prescott going. But don't try and do too much. Don't find your rhythm, find what you need, get into the play calling. Get in a rhythm with your offensive line and, helping them with snap counts, and go on long counts, go on some short counts, try and mix some things up, kind of play a little bit of a cerebral game against these Philadelphia Eagles, and then take advantage of their secondary. But the number one thing is you don't need to be a hero today. You just need to, and I'm not saying be a bus driver either.
Right.
But you've played at such a high level here the last several weeks. Just find a way to get in those rhythms that you've been able to do against some of these teams that have struggled to defend you.
For sure, and I think there's good reason to believe that the Eagles will struggle to defend tonight as we get to know the enemy, brought to you by Arrow Exterminators, the official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys got to take advantage of this, man. Since Week 8, the Eagles' defense has played 362 snaps. That's easily the most in the NFL. For those 5 games that they've played. So, I mean, we're talking about the average NFL defense during that same span is under 290 snaps.
Right.
And some teams have played as little as 250 snaps defensively over the course of the last 5 or 6 weeks or so. Again, we're talking about 362 snaps, and the Cowboys are coming in here, off 10 days rest. Well, so I think that's a monster advantage.
It is a monster advantage just for the health overall. But I'll say this too, though, Eric, about this. This game could be frustrating for both teams as well. When you talk about, tired rest and all that, but it's so important for both teams. We've mentioned that a lot. But this is one of those games where I look at it, though, and there's going to be some back and forth. There's going to be some peaks and valleys in this game. The Eagles are just that good on offense.
For sure.
You cannot, if something bad happens, it's almost like with Bland and the way that he plays, and he comes back and he gets an interception, maybe where he's had a rough go, or maybe they go after Jordan Lewis and he comes back and makes a key tackle in space or something. This game is going to be some ups and downs, some peaks and valleys. The two teams are just that good.
Yep.
That's where, the team that manages the peaks and valleys is going to be the one that probably walks out of here the best with the win, because that's going to happen. You're going to give up some plays. You're going to make some plays. The emotion that you ride in this game, and I talked about it with Dak, just his ability to stay even-keeled throughout the game and hey, take the good with the bad, but find a way to win it at the end.
That's right. You got to have that short-term memory, right? Isn't that what they like to say?
You always
have that short-term memory. You bounce back.
Both teams have huge players in this game. This is going to be, and I think the fan base is going to be the same way. You just got to manage your emotions throughout the game.
I'll tell you what, these Eagles fans have not been managing their emotions here
not
in the
at all.
pregame. The Miller Lite West Plaza.
They're disrespectful, to say the least.
They are liquored up. I mean, this is a Sunday night game.
I think their bus just got here. Their bus, they were all in Fort Worth. I think their bus just arrived.
Yes.
It was just a gang of them just came blowing through here.
They infiltrated my town.
Yes.
And I could smell it. I was like, it smells disgusting outside. What is it? It was the pack of damn Eagles fans that made their way to town getting set for Sunday Night Football here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. We inch closer and closer to kickoff. Let's go inside the booth with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, back and better than ever. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Are you ready to take coffee off your grocery list forever? Black Rifle Coffee Club.
We're just over 20 minutes to kick off Sunday Night Football live at AT&T Stadium, the Miller Lite West Plaza. Cowboys fans still making their way into AT&T Stadium. Cowboys looking to make it 15 consecutive home victories versus the filthy Eagles tonight. And it's time to go inside the booth with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. Brought to you by the WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Brad, it is fantastic to be talking with you, sir. We have been harassed by Eagles fans all night here outside the stadium. Is there a close second in terms of rabid fan bases from your experience?
And that depends on how well the Giants or Washington are doing in a given year when Dallas comes to town. And you can get some ugliness in San Francisco, believe it or not.
Ooh.
But in terms of vitriol and pure Dallas hatred, I don't think there's anything that rivals Philadelphia.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of I'll let you guess what fingers sent our way.
There's no guessing. I already know.
Well, I'll tell you what, Broaddus likes the idea, Cowboys' path to victory through the air tonight offensively. Do you see it the same way?
Well, I think that's what the statistics would tell you. The Eagles have had some problems defending the pass. The Cowboys are a pass-first team. Balance, when I was learning this game and Broaddus was playing it, was pretty close to 50-50. No one's trying to get to 50-50 now. And the Cowboys would tell you that they are balanced. but they've done better this year when they have thrown the ball more. You're going to have to run it. At some point, you're going to have to involve your backs. Maybe you throw to them, but you can't just stand back there all day and try to chuck the ball down the field. Their pass rush is too good. But you are going to have to make some plays in the air, and you're going to have to put pressure on them that way. I think there's little question about that.
Brad, again, welcome back. It's so great to hear your voice again. And I want to ask you, though, on the flip side of that, the Cowboys secondary dealt with a lot of big-time plays against the Seahawks, but came up big at the end. Do you kind of anticipate the same thing happening with having to endure a group of receivers that can really make some plays?
Bryan, thank you. I think that, look, I don't know who's got two receivers better than Brown and Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, those are all pro players. And so the key is to try to make Hurts a little uncomfortable. Don't, keep him going to his left, not his right.
Right.
That kind of thing. Don't let him escape up the middle. And then you're going to have to cover. I am not really alarmed, Bryan, by what happened last week because you're just not going to shut everybody down in the NFL every week. The rules are not built for it. Right. So the key is, did you win the game? And they won the game. And by the way, this just in, DK Metcalf's a pretty good player.
He is a very good player. You're absolutely right about that.
Boy, you can say that again. And A.J. Brown from the same school, similar build, speed. It is a little bit scary just how impressive that dude is. And they seem to mitigate DK Metcalf in the second half last week once they moved around Stephon Gilmore. So that's certainly encouraging. Now we, Brad, have circled Hassan Reddick as don't let that guy ruin your night offensively. Would you agree?
So I thought Hassan Reddick was their best player on defense last year.
Yeah.
And I really thought he might have been the best defensive player I saw in the league. One reason that would support that theory, Eric, is the game that he had against Steele in Philadelphia. I mean, Terrence gave up 4 sacks, and I think Reddick had a couple of them. He's a beast, and they're going to have to hold up against him. And there's a lot that goes in. It's not all just one player. But, I don't think Reddick gets talked about nearly enough. Because there's Hall of Famers on this field now. I mean, I think Fletcher Cox is a Hall of Famer myself. But Reddick is a really, really, really good player.
No question about it, Brad. I speak for all of Cowboys Nation when I say welcome back. It is great to have you. Cannot wait to hear you on the call tonight and enjoy the game.
Thanks, fellas. Have a good one.
Yes, sir. There he goes, voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. And now we get Christy Scales, keys to the game, the best sideline reporter in the business. Brought to you by Pollock Aurora, proud supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Christy, we got a big one tonight. What would you like to focus on when it comes to keys to victory? This Cowboys defense going to have to show up tonight.
Definitely, and they're expecting Jalen Hurts to throw more on timing because last week against San Francisco, they felt like he was really holding on to the ball a lot. So they're expecting him to throw on timing, get rid of the ball quickly. So this is one of those games where when you measure pass rush, the effectiveness of it, you can't necessarily look at sacks. You have to look at how they're able to affect Jalen Hurts. So they think that they're going to see a little bit something different in the passing game from the Eagles tonight than what they put on tape last week against the 49ers, and the Eagles lost to San Francisco. Now, obviously, stopping the run is always imperative against a really excellent Eagles team with such a good offensive line and a threat running the ball at quarterback. But I think the other thing is eliminating the mistakes, because if you look back at that Week 9 loss at Philadelphia, there were a few key mistakes on special teams that gave Philly the start of the drive at their own 40-yard line, put them in good field position. There were some penalties on the defense, particularly in the red zone, that were just killer. So eliminating mistakes to not give them good field position and to keep them from extending drives.
Christy, when you look at this, you mentioned the defense and what they need to do. When you talk about the quick game, maybe more press coverage, maybe up on the receivers. We saw a little bit more depth against Seattle, and then the second half they got a little bit more press, so they're going to try and contest more balls with that timing game that they think.
I like where you're going with that, Bryan, and I think that we will see that quickly coming out if they're going to go that course. But
sure.
Because the thing is, if they're going to go more on timing, then obviously being able to disrupt that timing with some jams or with some press coverage be interesting to see if they get what they anticipate, more timing, how the Cowboys counteract that, and that would definitely be one way to do it.
Christy, we've seen quite a bit of green out here in the Miller Lite West Plaza. What are you seeing inside the stadium right now? Big-time Eagle turnout?
Pretty good Eagle turnout. Good on the lower level, level 1, particularly behind the Eagles bench, and then what would be the east side of the stadium. So, it's pretty obnoxious. You can't miss them with that Kelly green. So, of course, the Eagles had those Kelly throwbacks this year, and I think that most of the fans here in attendance have gone with the Kelly green if they're wearing Philly colors tonight.
Well, Christy, you're the best. We appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the game, and we look forward to chatting with you next week.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Bryan.
There she goes, Christy Scales with her keys to the game. And now, Broaddus, it's on us. It's our turn. Prediction time on the official pregame show of America's team. I think this is kind of a fireworks show. I know the Eagles offense has sputtered a touch, but we know what they're capable of on a night like this. They've been hearing it all week long about how they got beaten up by the Niners. I know they're exhausted, and I think ultimately that is going to cost them in this game. But I do think they go toe-to-toe, and it's a laser show, and it's high scoring. And we know the Cowboys, 41 points per game at home this season. I'm going 37-33. Cowboys get the victory.
Yeah, I on the various platforms, I went 30-27 Cowboys. And I just felt like I do feel it's going to come down to, can either team get that second half stop? When Wolchuk asked me, what do you got to do in the second half? It's probably going to be that fireworks show. Who in the second half can make that stop? Dallas has got to play well, though, down in the red zone and in the tight red zone. Don't come away with field goals.
Yes.
Find a way to keep pressure on Philadelphia. But I agree with you. I think there's going to be some offense in this football game. Defense probably going to have to deal with a lot of things, but who can get those 1 or 2 extra stops in that second half? Dallas 30, Philadelphia 27.
Okay, 30-27. I got 37-33. It looks like we get some high scoring tonight if that's the case. And the Cowboys certainly, let's not have a ref show.
Yeah.
And let's make sure defensively you capitalize on the opportunities. Yeah. The Eagles gave you 3 or 4 in the last game. You couldn't capitalize on them.
Couldn't get on the ball, yeah.
Tonight you got to capitalize, be buttoned up late in the game from a game management standpoint. I do think you'll see the Eagles' legs start to fade as the game goes on, and hopefully the Cowboys can crank it up there in the fourth quarter, come away with their 15th consecutive home victory. And now let's get you to kickoff, ladies and gentlemen. Brad and Babe, Christy, they got you the rest of the way. Kickoff around the corner. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Buffalo Wild Wings will be hosting a weekly football feast live radio show with 105.3 The